Welcome back, everybody, and good morning. Today's episode, probably a darker topic than most people maybe want to start their Monday with, but I think it's incredibly important. I never shy away from these topics. I think they're critical. I think we have to have these conversations. And I'm going to add to that, I think we have to talk about the burden that this type of occupation places on the individuals. I'm not so sure. Actually, I'm positive. It's not for everybody. And I think there's a maximum exposure. My guest today is Garrett Maxey. He is a Special Victims Unit detective, been in law enforcement for 12 years in the Idaho area. Jails patrol, major crimes, and what we talked a lot about was his time in ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. To me, this is the worst of the worst. What these people are exposed to, and I mean those who are trying to stop these individuals, what they're exposed to is unbelievable. I don't even have the vocabulary for the behaviors and activities of those that they are after. So we talk a lot about that, but we also talk a lot about, like I mentioned in the intro, the burden and cost that it places on people who have to knowingly go into this world. Somebody has to. We have to have an ability to find these people where they are. And the people that do that, man, they get nothing but respect from me. And I'll never stop talking about this topic because, people who listen to the podcast understand the potato peeler theory that I have. Still waiting for a federal, state, local agency to reach out for me. I'll donate my services, but I don't know if that call will ever come. Let's get into the episode. But before that, stick with me. Give me 90 seconds. Let's pay the bills. Today's episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. Let's head over right now to their website. Well, it just switched on me. First thing I'm seeing, and actually this is probably what I'll focus on for today. Don't sleep on the Coffee Club subscription. So there's two versions. The first one that's up on this rotating banner is I'll call it the traditional Coffee Club subscription. And right now you can get 30% off when you start a coffee subscription. You can use the code COFFEE30, all one word. The last two 30 are numbers versus letters, coffee normal spelling. You are going to get, it's actually really cool. You get more than coffee. The Coffee Club, they're going to get offers from other brands that are associated with Black Rifle. I've actually worked with a few of them to get them introduced into that. But you can pick whatever coffee you want, get it delivered where you want on the cadence that you want to. But there is another subscription. And this one is really cool. Evan was posting about this. Evan and Logan, I oftentimes see them posting about the new ECS, or Exclusive Coffee Club subscription that comes out. It's a single bag per month, but it's a really curated experience. The art on the bags is really cool. The beans, man, it's wild. I am not somebody who would ever be paid to give you a flavor profile of what coffee tastes like, but it really is all over the place in a good way. It's just a different type of experience. Don't sleep on that stuff. Those two subscriptions are pretty cool. I am a member of both of those, and I appreciate both for what they are. I get the normal beans and then the exclusive ones as well. Looks like they also have rounds. For those of you, I'm going to call those K-cups if I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I don't drink coffee this way because I don't hate myself. Scrolling down the page, again, if you're going to join that Coffee Club subscription, just take this rotating or this slider bar. You can go all the way to light to extra dark. You can see everything that they have to offer. Here's an example right here of this cover art that I'm talking about. Elixir, I'm not even saying that word, but the V, that's a really cool bag. There's apparel, all the other stuff that I've talked about before. Focusing it on the Coffee Club subscriptions. Take the work out of getting your coffee. Have it delivered to you. And if you have somebody who's a total coffee nerd, sign them up for that ECS. You will not regret it. All of that can be accessed through blackriflecoffee.com.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
How often do you hear that those are your favorite episodes, though, with your dad?
Fuck, every day. And the problem is he hears it too.
I was just going to say, does he hear it? And
oh my God. He wants
That's
to do
awesome.
merchandise. He has started. Were you there when he was telling, I think he was telling Leah, oh yeah, Flintlock. That's what everybody calls me. And I said to him,
what?
Yeah, because I called that episode Flintlock Friday because that was the technology that was current when he was fucking young. He goes, yeah, everybody calls me Flintlock. And I said, Dad, not a single person anywhere is calling you Flintlock. And he says, that's not what I heard. And I'll ask,
right.
where did you hear that from? And he goes, just the people.
Oh, yeah.
That dude tried to tell me. So, did he follow you, Michael?
No.
Okay, so he did a recent episode. We were talking about Instagram.
Okay.
2 days later, my sister hits me up over text and says, I think somebody is pretending to be dad on Instagram because I just got this essentially non-filled out account, but the name was Von Stumpf and it just followed me. So we need to check to see if somebody is, pretending to be dad online. This is the same time period he got his new phone.
Okay.
So, of which he needs fucking help. So I'm over there, and I was going to try to sneak Life 360 on there so I could track him and his wife. He is now agreeing that it's probably a good idea that it's on there.
Okay.
So when we find them in a park somewhere lost, we can go get them. I'm scrolling through the apps, and I see the Instagram app on there. I'm like, Click on it. Von Stumpf, all lowercase, no profile picture, 0 posts, following 7 different versions of my name, none of which is the correct account, and my sister. So I started asking him about it. Dad, why'd you download Instagram? He's like, I didn't. And his wife starts chiming in. He doesn't know how to do that. There's no way he did it. I'm like, do you think a fucking mouse came in here and started typing, downloading Instagram? Finally, he admits, he's like, well, I was curious what it was. And I just started pushing buttons. I didn't know what I was doing. Like you randomly, this is the theory that if you gave a fleet of monkeys a typewriter, they would at some point produce Shakespeare's greatest works.
Right.
So randomly, he claims he created an account with his name, which is VAUGHN. A lot of people just put Vaughn, VON. And I can't, for whatever reason, he is emotionally unwilling to admit that he just created an Instagram account. I think I did have him follow you, or I did that for him. So you might have a Von Stomp following you.
Okay, maybe. I haven't seen it, but I'll check.
The next day, he's like, I don't know how to use this thing. I just push buttons. So my sister texts me a picture of his feet that he had sent to her accidentally. While trying to text her, the camera icon popped up, captured a picture of his feet, and he's like, I didn't know how to get off the screen, so I just kept hitting the arrow button until it went away. So, and then here's the thing. Yeah, he's fantastic on the show, but this is the shit I have to deal with off of the show. Or, we're at dinner, recently Leah had me telling the story about when I flushed an orange down the toilet when I was young. We're at dinner the other night, and he is trying to convince people that I did that when I was 13. Meanwhile, where we lived at that time, I couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old. So he's with fingernails holding on to fucking reality.
Yeah, yeah.
And, Shady Acres. Shady Acres is the name of the home I'm going to put him in. Or at least that's the name of the home I tell him I'm going to put him in. And my sister and I have agreed that, we're just going to keep doing that until he believes it.
Okay, that's
So,
fair.
He's the worst.
Yeah.
That'll be us one day to our kids.
Exactly. And then we're going to miss that from our dads, and then our kids, exactly. We'll be driving them nuts. And
Yeah. Michael, get on now and follow Von Stump. See if you can find it
Yeah, I'll
on
see if I
IG.
can find him.
VAUGHNST. Anybody who hears this, hop on there and give my dad
Here it is.
Yeah. Did you notice how the profile is completely not set up?
Yeah.
No posts?
No post, no profile picture.
Because he says, well, what do you do with it? What do you put on there? How does this work? And I said, these are questions you could have asked before you opened this account. I said, most of the time if you follow people, you kind of get to see what they post. It's a curated collection of what people, what I said was it's mostly pictures. And he's like, yeah, I can take pictures. I'm like, fuck.
of your feet.
I'm telling you, there's a good chance that he would have posted that picture by accident and not known it. And so, yeah, for all the people out there who keep encouraging my dad, at some point you're going to get what you asked for, and you may not like it.
I want to see that account get to like 1 million followers, though.
I don't think it'll ever get to 1 million. Did you follow Michael?
I did.
So he's probably
Yep.
at 8.
If all the fake Andy Stumpf profiles follow him back, though, what do you think? Maybe?
It was stumpf.andy, Andy Stumpf. I mean, I don't. And again, just pushing buttons, right? Just accidentally followed 5 different incorrect versions of my username.
And how many other people is he following, though? Just those?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
And my sister. And I'll get him to follow Michael. And then Michael, you know what? I'm going to let you mentor him.
No.
Yeah.
I do not get paid enough for that.
Nobody does. It wouldn't matter if I paid you in gold bars. It's not enough. Send him a DM and see what he
No. I don't think you would even know that happened.
Dude, that's
The
awesome.
app, the icon itself is not even on any of the home screens. So it's, as you swipe to the right, they're clustered. First off, I don't know if he even knows how to do that, but I'm pretty sure he'll never be able to find it again. But I don't know. He might have 4 years left before he heads into Shady Acres. So I don't know. What do you think, Michael? Should we just lean into his social presence?
Yes.
Yes.
What would you recommend as his profile picture? Santa Claus?
The Playgirl photo.
Well, you used to work, internet crimes against children. How does a group rugby photo from the 1920s where they're not wearing anything but their cleats, I don't know if that is necessarily safe for internet consumption. The picture would be very small on the Instagram profile picture, but that's what it is.
Yeah. Now, are we talking like from head to toe, the only thing they're wearing is cleats?
Yeah.
See, that's rough. I think it might go against community guidelines. Illegal? Probably not.
The amount of pubic hair. Did you notice that, Michael? Because I know you surveyed that picture closely, and
Yeah. With
you
the
were pinching in.
microscope.
Yeah. Did you notice that though?
I did, unfortunately.
Yeah. Heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, people live your life however you want to. I'm not saying you should be a hairless cat, but
But also, if it's the 1920s and you're trying to shave
it wasn't
down there,
actually the 20s. But that's when I tell him he was
Gotcha.
bored.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
He's old as shit.
Even still, you're talking like, safety razor where you got to put the blade in and crank it. Trying to shave down there with that has got to be a nightmare.
Yeah. I think they have developed electricity like in his early 20s, but oh well. Yeah. So point being, welcome to the show, and try to keep the mic about a fist away. I mean, I know what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the type of casework that you do. How'd you find your way into law enforcement?
So growing up in Southern California, my dad was a deputy with LA County Sheriff's, and I mean, that's just what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
My dad was
Why do you go sheriff over PD? I bet you there's a nice, potentially friendly / unfriendly rivalry between the two.
yeah, 100%. And I know you've had at least one LAPD copper in here, or retired LAPD copper, but there's definitely that friendly, unfriendly rivalry. Why he went sheriff's, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think...
What about his family before him? Were they law enforcement?
No.
So he was the first
No, he
into
was
the...
first.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather did like duct work for HVAC systems. And then, my dad
Less
was
likely to get shot.
Yeah, a lot less likely.
Yeah.
A lot less likely. Now my pop got into it, and he wouldn't have done well in the trades, I don't think. It's not his personality. Not his personality. He definitely had a personality for law enforcement.
How long do you do?
Gosh, he did 25 years. He just retired a couple years ago.
How do they abbreviate it? LASO?
LASD.
LASD,
Used
sure.
to be LA County Sheriff's Office. And
Yeah.
that changed, in the 90s, I think, early 2000s.
Do they have a separate academy from the PD guys?
Yes.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
That could have nothing to do with the rivalry.
And listen, I'll say this: I love the LAPD guys, but we chase our bad guys down to them; they chase theirs up to us, and we were talking about the helicopter side of things, right?
Yeah.
LAPD's copters are coming back to us a ton of times when our aero units weren't able to make it to us. So, there's a friendly rivalry. It's healthy. It's still ongoing.
Who has the longer academy?
So I think the academy is dictated by California Post.
Who has the better academy?
Oh, LA County. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I have it on good
It's
authority.
identical curriculum and length.
Here's the thing, though, and I've talked to folks from LAPD, and they've got little stress cards. If they're feeling a little too stressed, they can just hold up their...
No, they don't.
I don't know, man.
There was a time in the military where those existed. I don't know what they've
wild.
done with them, but it was a TTO card, a training timeout.
A training timeout card.
Yeah, which is really reflective of a combat environment. You can really use those, and
Yeah.
your enemy will certainly respect when you are emotionally at your brink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
No,
when they back
legitimately
off, right?
though. I remember hearing about that training timeout
wild.
cards.
Was that before or after your time?
It was kind of in the middle, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I heard that 15th hand from people who
Sure.
had knew people
Sure.
who were going through it. So there was probably some validity to it, and I will admit some of that was probably blown well out of proportion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there's that whole, I'm sure it's the same in the military, definitely in law enforcement and fire and all that, where the generation before us had it so much worse, and the generation before them, they were tougher and had it worse, and so on and so forth.
So
Probably a little bit of
LAPD, LASO, LAFD.
Yes.
Does like LAPD and the fire department ever gang up and harass the sheriff? Do you guys ever gang up with the fire department and harass the PD? Because that gets tough when there's 3 entities on scene.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what LAPD, LASO, and the fire department all have in common? They all wanted to be firefighters.
See, I knew it was going to go there. My father-in-law is retired LA City Fire, and the amount of times I've heard that over the past 15 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's untrue every single time.
I don't think that's the case. I've heard that the LA Fire Department secures the scene for you guys, and then you guys go in.
Yeah. So not quite, generally speaking.
They might have used the term second responders for your outfit.
Yeah. So again,
Just
all
so you
lies.
know, if there was a
All
firefighter
lies.
sitting here, I'd be using exactly the same thing, but just the other side of the coin.
No, so 100%. And again, you want to talk about a friendly rivalry as cops and firefighters, and you can't do, we can't do what we do without the fire department, and they can't do what they do without us. And
Their mustaches are unbelievable.
they are. That comes from an old tradition, I'm told, for trying to save themselves from smoke. They could just shove their whiskers up their nose.
No, that's not how that works.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But if it's, 1905 and that's the best you got.
You might actually believe it worked if that was 1905.
Right.
All right.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, it's an interesting crew. My brother-in-law is a San Diego City fire captain, and actually this episode won't come out probably for almost a month, actually, because we have a few backlog. But next week we'll be in Canada snowboarding with them, and a good amount of them are firefighters.
Yeah.
If one of the stereotypes that almost always holds true is their fucking mustaches.
100%. It's true.
It's like department-wide, East Coast, West Coast, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a
Right.
guy who is a firefighter, just dick broom model. Like just chiseled.
Yeah. I don't know what the standards are for every single fire department, right? But they're usually, well past the crease of the lip.
100% they're past
down,
the crease.
like you can't see their front teeth.
Sometimes I've seen it wrap under the chin,
Yeah.
which I don't know how that works with a seal and a mask, and I don't care.
It's not my problem.
Shooter's
right?
choice.
And you can always tell a cop's mustache, right? Because it's kind of like that 70s gay porno type mustache where
It's a little creepy.
It is.
Yeah.
Because those are the grooming standards. You can't go past the crease of the lip, and it's got to stay,
It's a little creepy, and you guys walk up to cars and ask people questions.
You can ask my wife about this. I did try the whole mustache thing after my kid was born.
Did she not like it?
She hated it.
Yeah.
She hated it. And I said, this is, I'm a dad now and I have to do this. But working sex crimes with that mustache is risky business.
Yeah, you might end up in a mugshot yourself by accident.
That's the thing. Great for undercover work. But
God. Man. Okay, so your pops, what a crazy area. I was telling you on the walk over. I don't think people realize how active and stretched thin law enforcement is there, and to include myself. So I was super fortunate. I happened to be in the area for a speech, and a guy from the Air Division reached out, offered me a ride along. So I'm just sitting in the back. I mean, it's like, I love rhetorical questions when people ask them to me. Hey, do you want to ride in the back of our LAPD helicopter? Yes, I do. Yeah. So. And it was amazing. Like their facility was cool. The number of helicopters they have were cool. And I don't know the exact number of radios. I'm going to guess it was something along, actually probably wasn't radios, just frequencies. 5 freaks. But they certainly were on LAPD. I know for a fact they were on the sheriff's office frequency as well. Probably fire. There was one frequency or channel that you could use to reach out directly to them and it would beep at them. And I think there was another one. In the 3 hours that we were flying, I am not joking, there may have been a total combined time of 10 minutes where one of those radios was not active. Yeah. And that helicopter was just all over the place. And, people talk a lot about the gun laws in California. Almost every one of those calls was not necessarily gun violence, but kind of gun violence adjacent.
Yeah. Person with a gun call.
Yeah. Or, they would find it, or they found a magazine, or hey, and they're looking. And so, and it was interesting. It was really cool to see how a little bit similar to us overseas, you can task shed stuff up because they have a better view. So they would work on coordination.
Right.
They were actually doing an aerial. They had surrounded a house, but they had them get on it must have been a very loud speaker, and basically tell them to come out. I don't know how you don't have an entire block of people coming out of their home when that thing's circling overhead. Yeah. Like, I get that the light, the eye of God was on the house, but that thing was so loud you could have heard it for blocks. There's just people just walking out with it.
Yeah. It's wild. I mean, you're talking the speaker on the helicopter,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, the helicopters are loud. That speaker was louder.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're orbiting at a couple hundred feet. I don't know how you don't have everybody in an entire city block walking out with their arms up.
Well, everybody, I imagine maybe in your house, you hear something, maybe you can't make it out. So we've had containments where, canines coming out. They're going to walk the dog. And the warnings come over the speaker like, hey, the dog's coming out. If you come out of your house, you're going to get bit.
Yeah.
And people probably
all they hear is and they come out of their house.
I'm going to come out of my house, go check out, and you're like, go back in.
Those guys were working it, though. It was cool to see. It was cool to see, and you could tell that the officers on the ground appreciated when they showed up overhead.
Absolutely.
Because they actually, I think on almost every, they would kind of loiter, and then when they would hear something or get called, they would haul ass. And obviously without having to hit stop signs, and they can just go straight as opposed to zigzagging.
Right.
But I think almost every time, if not every time, the units on the ground specifically said, thank you, which is cool. You can tell that they appreciated it being overhead.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like a super small gesture.
Yeah.
And it would be really easy to not say. And so the fact that they went out of the way to say that, I'm like, all right, these guys, they have a good relationship.
And you heard firsthand like how precious radio time is there, because the radio's going constantly. So that, like, a genuine thank you to the helicopter pilots. If there's any of them listening, like, they know it. They're lifesavers.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's wild. And with that area being as big as it is, because LA itself, I could be wrong here, but it's like 90 square miles.
Yeah. And
that's
Michael, will you look up will you look up the population of LA County?
It's like 12 million the last I heard.
Yeah.
9.6.
9.6. Okay. That is 8.7 times more population than the state of Montana.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
It's unbelievable. Wild. And then if you add San Diego to that, that's going to be another probably 6 to 7 million. You're talking 15 million people easy in the first 120 miles north of the southern border of the U.S.
It's wild. And the area that county covers, it's not the biggest county in California by any means, but just how fast those helicopters. I worked on the north end of the county.
Yep.
So
that's kind of where we were loitering too.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and it's a lot of desert. You get pockets of dense population, but a lot of open desert, and just those guys being able to get there to you that fast it's lifesavers. Yeah.
Did your dad encourage you going law enforcement, or was that something you decided on your own?
Something I decided on my own. My dad wanted me to be a firefighter.
Do you need us to cut that out of the episode?
No.
Michael, let's make note of this. I think that was an error.
Yeah. No, he wanted me to be a firefighter, and he was a fire explorer himself. And
okay. Does that mean pyromaniac?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that man's campfires were out of hand.
Okay.
But here's I'm going to admit this, and this might be what every other cop thinks, might not be, but I am terrified of small spaces. I don't like having a mask over my face. I don't I shit my pants nearly every time I hang like Christmas lights. I don't like heights. I don't like getting on ladders.
I mean, that's an unreasonable fear.
There's
reasonable fears and unreasonable fears.
Fires are scary.
Yeah, if you don't like tight spaces and you don't like masks and you don't like heat, you probably shouldn't be either like a chef or a firefighter.
Yeah, zero desire to do.
Yeah.
I mean, either of those things. So, and then you watch Cops. Cops is like the best show ever. They don't show you the stacks of paperwork on the back end, but it's like, oh yeah, I want to drive fast and I want to go take people to jail and find the dope and the guns and all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a reason they don't make, firefighter live. You just kind of hang around the station. You get called out. They do some really cool stuff, but it is a lot of hanging around, not a whole lot of proactive stuff. So, and being kind of a spaz myself, I'm like, I got to get out there. I realize now, like, I definitely took the wrong test.
Well, how old were you when you started pursuing that path?
Oh, man. I got on with the Sheriff's Explorers in high school.
Yeah.
I was a sophomore.
Do they require a college degree for LASO?
You know, I think they do now.
Okay.
I read something about that. I don't know if that's still the case. Here's the thing with LA County and probably a lot of different agencies in that area is you've got some of the hardest working line personnel and line supervisors and down. You really couldn't ask for better people. They did the whole college degree thing for a while. They got rid of it. And during that time is when I got in. I mean, I got hired when I was 18.
By the sheriff's office?
Yeah. So I
Looking
started
back, do you
out-
think that's a touch young for that job?
Oh my gosh, 100%, man.
Yeah.
100%. And I don't regret it. It was either the Marine Corps or the sheriffs, and I had started the process when I was 17 and a half to get on with the sheriff's office, the sheriff's department there. And it was for a civilian position working in the jails. It was like, hey, this is the custody assistant position.
Jesus, you're still 18 though.
Yeah.
Working in jails.
Yeah, man. It was the wildest experience. My 19th birthday was my first day in the jails and winding up at Min Central Jail in downtown LA. And it was wild, dude. But it was cool because the way that this job is marketed is, hey, you're going to go and, you're not supposed to have any inmate contact. You're just pushing buttons.
Bullshit.
Hell no. Yeah. So in LA County is completely all the time short-staffed. So it's like, hey, you're filling in wherever we need you. So you're doing inmate contact and all the stuff that it says you're not supposed to do, you're doing it.
So that was a jail, more of an interim facility as opposed to a prison?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So in LA County has this very robust, and it's still not enough space. But gosh, I'd have to count on my hand and probably your hands the amount of facilities they have.
Jails?
Yeah.
Where? So I know there's San Quentin. Where are the other prisons in Cali? There's one up in by Monterey.
Right.
It's basically the time you see the "Don't Pick Up Hitchhikers" signs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. You're driving through. Well, at least you got a pretty view there. But
Yeah.
like the desert.
I'm trying to think. There's east of San Diego. I think there's one out in the desert.
Yeah.
Actually, there's you know what? There's a prison. There's a prison under where I used to skydive. Not directly under.
Oh, no
If
way.
you tried, you could make the yard, and I don't think you should try that at all.
Nah.
But I remember. Okay, so southern San Diego, up in San Fran. Mm-hmm. How does that work? How do you? If you're going to be held for a short period of time, do you go to jail? If it's more serious, you go to prison?
Yeah, and so California laws are funky, right?
Yeah.
There was
Among
I wanna
many
say it
things
was,
in California.
among other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was AB 109 was passed, and it basically said, hey, you're convicted of this crime, but you're going to spend time in the LA County Jail, which would be way worse than going to prison, because at least the prisons you get a little bit more freedom. You get radios, you get some other
Do you really?
cool stuff. Yeah. So you have a little bit more because it's long term. Like if you're going to spend 40 years in a prison, they're going to give you a little bit more on the amenities side of things, whereas a jail is meant
don't
to
know
be
if I
more
support
short
that.
term. I don't either.
I would need to know
But-
why somebody was in prison for 40 years. And if it was super fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you don't get a radio.
Right. But that's how we catch lawsuits, and we hurt feelings, and feelings are what matter most. And
Yeah. I'm not saying I want to participate in any of the application of my concept. I'm just saying I don't think a guy in prison for 40 years for something super fucked up should get a radio.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, the jails are meant to be temporary, and
Yeah,
they
okay.
became less temporary with the passing of AB 109. California also passed Prop 47 and 57, so they not decriminalized, like made it legal to possess methamphetamine or heroin or whatever, but dropped
Okay.
it down to a misdemeanor. And then they made
Does that
other
just become
crimes.
a waste of time for cops?
It is, and I would say it becomes more of a waste of time. You still got to take them to jail. You're going to hard book them, but they get a citation and they walk out usually before you're even done with a report.
Really?
Yeah. So you took the dude's dope, that he probably went and burglarized a car, or stripped, some copper, or burgled a house or whatever for. You took his dope away, set him off with a citation. So, like, he's going to go steal more shit to go buy more dope.
Well, he'll definitely show up for his court case.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see the stats on that. I'd love to see how many of them actually show up to their designated court hearing.
Yeah, I've seen California's number keeping. I probably wouldn't trust it too much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Prop 57 came through after 47 by a handful of years. But that dropped a bunch of felonies down to misdemeanors, one of those being rape of an unconscious person.
What?
Yeah.
How does that happen? How does somebody sit down and say, here's a good idea?
Yeah.
The rape of an unconscious person, it just doesn't sound as bad. Maybe it shouldn't be a felony. Who in their right mind says that?
I have no idea. And if I sit here and I go, let me look at this from the other side of the table and see what they're thinking.
That's what I'm trying to do, and I don't
Right.
understand how you could arrive at a place where you would make the punishment for that less severe.
Right. But it's a non-violent crime.
You might want to ask the person who has that happen to him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I have a sneaky suspicion that the people who are, writing these things up haven't been victimized or don't
Probably
have family.
not. But then how do more than 50% of people vote for that? Or
Sneaky
maybe it's not
language,
50% of people, just the majority. So I don't there's probably, my recollection of California, there were so many different propositions and bills.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Most people, to include myself, had a passing level of understanding what it is you were voting for to begin with.
100%. And if you name it something nice and rosy, like this is the safe streets law or whatever.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is take all these felonies, we're going to drop them down to misdemeanors, and we're going to let these people out in your neighborhood again.
Well, it's a good way to decrease crime. It's
It's
by
great.
lowering the threshold as what's reported a crime.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that's why
Yeah.
stats could be great if you're,
They're also susceptible for manipulation.
Exactly. I mean, that whole area, unfortunately, I'm going to go off on a quick tangent, but I got a buddy of mine. He's a deputy with LA County, and back in 2023, he gets called to a robbery in progress up in the city of Lancaster. So he gets there. Suspects are female black, male black. He detains the female portion of this party. She's resisting. She's struggling. She's fighting. He does takedown, hits her with pepper spray. Total of 2 times, I believe. Hauls her off to the car. That seemed to take the fight out of her like pepper spray should. Mm-hmm. So that got looked at by the sheriff, and the sheriff said, nah, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like the optics on that. So he sent that off to the LA County DA, and even the LA County DA's office was like, there's not much we can do with this. The civil side of that didn't go anywhere. It got pushed up to the feds, and the feds said, yeah, we'll take this. And he just lost that case. He was convicted of
The officer.
Yeah, the deputy. He was convicted on it was like battery under color of authority, or it's basically excessive use of force.
Did he deviate from any of the use of force criteria?
No. He did his job is what he did. And here's the thing is, he was giving verbal commands. He tried to take down first. Hey, stop fighting. She keeps going. And if I remember correctly, he told her, if you don't stop, I'm going to hit you in the face. And he never did. He actually used a lower level of force, which is pepper spray. Mm-hmm. It hurts, but it's not going to break a jaw. It's not going to bust a nose.
Yeah.
It's just uncomfortable. And use that instead of actually physically striking this woman. And he just got convicted, and that carries, I want to say the maximum is 10 years in federal prison.
Really?
This dude's got a wife, 2 kids. So that's kind of the struggle that LA County is dealing with, and LAPD's got the same issues. The problem is, it's the climate that they're forcing these cops to work down there. I mean, if you work a predominantly black neighborhood, well, why aren't your stats for force or arrests or whatever? Why don't you arrest more white people? Because you got me working in a predominantly black neighborhood. That's kind of what's going to happen, right? So yeah, sheriff didn't like the optics on that one. Sheriff didn't like the optics on another one where deputies pulled over a car, middle of the night, no front headlights, and there's 2 or 3 female blacks in the car, and they've got their kids in there with no seatbelt, and the driver's drunk. So, and might have been all 3 were drunk, but deputies go to take the kids, like, hey, your kids are going to be going with DCFS now. Mm-hmm. And as they're trying to get one of the kiddos out of this lady's hands, she's got this kid in almost like a headlock kind of thing. So it becomes a rescue force type situation. Deputy reaches over, clocks her in the face, and she lets go of the kid, and the kid's fine. And the woman's fine. She just got tagged real quick. Didn't like that one. So he ended up losing his job over that. And then you get this issue where it's like, I guess we're not going to do our jobs. Like, we're going to do our jobs, but how do you expect cops to do their jobs down there if you're going to be, hanging them out to dry for every use of force?
It's a tough balance.
It is. And the problem is, like, obviously there's bad cops. Everybody knows that. Nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop. But when your brass is promoting the people who go out and they're hugging babies and shaking hands and all that stuff, but not the go-getters.
Yeah.
It's rough, man.
So when did you transition from jail into working on the streets?
So I did a couple years as a CA, and let's see, I was 20 or 21. I think I was 21 when I graduated the Deputy Academy and had to go back to the jails, and I was there for about a year. The way LA County works is you put in your, I think it was 3 stations where you want to work. And Palmdale was my number 1, Santa Clarita number 2, and then I had a throwaway station. I couldn't remember what it was, but I was getting ready to go to Palmdale Station. I got a phone call, said, hey, you're going to Santa Clarita, which is the city where I worked. Mm-hmm. And my recollection was, like, it's a slower city, and in a lot of respects, it is slower than that Antelope Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster area. But once I started actually working there, I realized this is a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So I was at that station for about 4 years, and then that puts us in about 2020. Yeah, 3-4 years, and then.
Well, and I don't know a whole lot about the career of sheriffs other than through my local touch points, and I've seen a good buddy of mine. He navigates through. He did a drug task force. He went back to working on patrol. He augments as I don't think he has a paramedic qual. EMT maybe. He rides around in the like technical rescue helicopter as well. They have a deputy in that for as well. He's a detective now, which is shocking, and I feel like crime is not being solved because he doesn't pay attention to a lot. I feel like he could be surprised by his own shadow sometimes. So yeah, if crime is actually up in the valley, I would actually probably look in that direction. But so he's navigated around a little bit. So of all the type of stuff that you could get into,
yeah.
How did you find your way into the ICAC stuff, which for people listening means Internet Crimes Against Children? Which to me, when I hear shit like that, I'm like thinking the darkest, deepest, most fucked up shit that human beings do.
For sure. And you'd be correct. I mean, it's one of the, and we'll get to that portion. But to answer your question, starting out, I was like, I just want to do the dope and the guns and the sexy stuff. And I got off training, and training was a lot of, you're learning how to write reports. You're learning how to do a bunch of stuff, right? But as a trainee, it's like you're taking all the paper. So I got off training and kind of was at this point where I'm like, I really don't know how to find dope. So started hanging out with people who did.
But your paperwork skills were, I bet, good.
Because of a handful of really good sergeants that bled all over my reports, they made me a good report writer. Yes. So yeah, I started learning kind of how to do the actual proactive cop stuff, and I loved it. And like a lot of cops do, unfortunately, I was trying to avoid a lot of the nasty calls, the rape calls, the anything involving sex crimes against children. And it's not so much that I didn't care. It's just that it's really uncomfortable, and it leaves me feeling pretty gross.
Is that kind of a shared sentiment, law enforcement wide? Like, not that you don't want to be there to help, but that it takes a special type of person to be able to tolerate that?
Yeah, I'd say so. Okay. I'd say so. And I think a lot of it was you don't want to be that guy who's stuck on a shift killer of a call, right? So you get a rape call, and this is going to vary depending on what agency you're at, but LA County, you're not calling a detective out. You're doing the whole investigation,
really?
Up front, right? So you're interviewing collecting evidence, you're doing the whole 9 yards, and then writing your report, submitting your evidence, and shipping it off to special victims. So it's a long, long day, and you're not going to be out backing your partners. You're not going to be out doing proactive, sexy stuff.
It basically takes you off the street.
It does. Yeah. It does. And it's got to be done, and it's vitally important, and dispatchers know that. Everybody really knows that, but you avoid those calls if you can, if that's just not your gig,
That's fair.
And at the time it wasn't mine, and it wasn't that I didn't care. It's just, it made me really uncomfortable, and it's going to kill my shift. And honestly, it's just selfish. Like, I was being selfish. I wanted to do what I wanted to do and not what I was hired to do, which is go and help people. Mm-hmm. But fast forward a couple of years in, I'm talking with a special victims detective, and he's telling me about a case that he's working. And I was like, man, I don't know how you work that stuff. And he was like, I don't know how you don't. Like, it's really the most important stuff you can do, because, violent crime, homicide, robbery, there's usually a reason behind a homicide. There's usually a reason for a robbery, or, just savages going out doing savage things. But sex crimes against kids, like, there's no kid that's asking to be victimized. There's usually, in my opinion, right, it's the worst of the worst.
Most people, I think, would agree with you.
Yeah, it's just
almost everybody I've talked to, they believe people can change.
Yeah.
There's some pathway to forgiveness. And then you bring up things with little kids, and they're like, no, kill that motherfucker.
Right. It's the wildest thing. And obviously, I don't condone that.
I do. I 100%. And I wish that they would federally allow me to do that, because I feel like it's a service not being fucking utilized. But almost everybody has that line.
Well, and here's the thing is I think that it doesn't take some mathematician to sit there and calculate stats for everyone to know, like, yeah, if you're attracted to children,
the recidivism rate is through the roof.
It's through the roof. Yeah. It's through the roof, because there's, again, world according to me, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, but there's nothing you can do. There's no money you can give me. There's no electroshock therapy that you can give me that's going to convince me that I'm not attracted to women. I'm not attracted to my wife. And I imagine for gay dudes, it's probably the same thing. People who are attracted to the same sex, it's probably the same thing. People who are attracted to children, why wouldn't that be the same thing?
Well, I was going to say, have you tried making out with a dude for science?
I haven't. Still open to it.
So how do you know?
I don't. I don't.
So you live in the gray. You live in the gray area. You don't even fucking know. You don't even believe in science.
It's hard to believe sometimes.
I guess.
Hard to believe sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. There is something in that step. And the fact, one of the things that is, again, it falls in line with that. How does this person or a person sit down and go, okay, rape of an unconscious person. We should probably round the edges on that and make the punishment less severe. Yeah. The attempt to change pedophiles into a minor attracted individual is like a fucking razor blade on my skin. I can't believe that anybody would try to round the edges on that.
Right. And I got to walk back a little bit of what I said and follow my sword a little bit here, because there are stats on people who were victimized as children.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, it's, for every person that's victimized as a child, and it might be sexual and like a physical abuse situation, they go on to abuse 3 more people. So that's like an exponential growth type of thing, right? So I guess the question becomes, is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it a little bit of both? I mean, because we see...
It's probably a combination of...
Right. And you move on to the people who are, maybe they haven't hands-on abused a child in a sexual way, but they're into... used to be called child pornography, but pornography...
What do they call it now?
CSAM, child sexual abuse material, or child sexual exploitation material.
Why did they change it from child pornography?
So my understanding is...
Was it too rough of a term?
Well, it's one of those like words that just like takes minutes off your life when you hear it, because it's just so gross.
Because it's so horrible.
Right.
So let's not round the edges on this shit.
I think they got rid of child pornography, because pornography, there's like this... like consent to it.
Eh.
It leads people to believe that there's consent.
And well, even in adult pornography, there's an argument to be made. There's a trafficking aspect of that. There's a monetary aspect of it. Consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So
how about this
I
though?
don't know
A
when that
child
changed
can't
over.
consent.
Well, that's the thing,
You know?
right? Yeah. You're a child. Even if you're 16 and you're consenting, like,
Yeah, the law doesn't recognize that.
sorry, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Especially when the dude's a lot older. Like, definitely not.
Older creepy dudes.
Yeah.
God.
And everybody's known about the older creepy dudes forever and ever, right?
You know the worst advice we give our kids?
What's that?
Stranger danger.
How so?
It's almost always somebody you fucking know. It's not a
Yes.
stranger.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk about this broadly because it just happened, but at the coffee shop where I met you, most of our staff is younger women.
Okay.
There is an interesting occurrence of older fucking men making comments. They are lucky that I haven't been there to hear one, because I would come over the fucking counter.
Yeah, man.
But and for the younger women, I worry because they're not recognizing the slight pushing of boundaries to see what somebody can get away with. They're testing the water.
Right.
Make a little bit of a comment. You know, we had an incident where an older man was soliciting for hugs from the barista. And I'm trying, and it breaks my heart because I want the people to understand that there's no reason for that. I don't give a fuck if that person reminds you of your grandfather, because it's not.
Yeah.
It's a random stranger. Notice they're not asking for hugs from everybody.
Right.
Notice that once you said yes the first time, it became more progressive. Notice that there was a phone number that was given to you after that. It's predation.
Exactly.
And God damn it, I wish they would do it when I was there.
Yeah, man.
But it worries me because it wasn't recognized by the person it was happening to. And I had a conversation with the person about it, and then I ejected for life the person associated, because I happened to be in the store.
Oh, man.
And they approached me. And
Oh, boy.
Michael was in there for that. I forgot about that. He noticed my knife hand when I was discussing.
Oh, yeah.
You should have cruised over, Michael. It would
It looked really funny.
It would have been a nice learning. It was like a nice E5 fucking counseling, just up one side and down the other with instructions to get your coffee and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But stranger danger. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably know the stats. Again, we'll get into the stuff that you were working on, but I bet more often than not, it probably wasn't a total stranger.
No, and you're 110% right. Like,
There is the internet shit where they try to off-platform,
right.
but it's like this fucking creepy uncle, you know?
Yeah.
Or
And see, here's my problem with like stats and all that, because it makes you look in one direction more than another.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's good, but if you're looking in this direction, you miss all the stuff over here too.
Yeah.
And like, there is the creepy uncle, and there is the dude that comes in and solicits hugs, and he's trying to break that physical barrier,
Yeah.
so that he can take the next step, right? But a lot of what we're seeing in the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, their stats for 2024 aren't out yet, but 2023, there's stats on like child enticement type stuff on the internet.
see, and that's a tool where maybe stranger danger actually is becoming more real, because those tools didn't exist when you and I were growing up.
Right. And
Like a dude who was kinked out on shit that is just horrendous, but they lived in Florida. Weird shit happens in Florida. I think we can all agree upon that.
Absolutely.
Florida man's a real thing. He is a feature, not a bug. So let's just say Florida, and you lived in California.
Right.
0% chance of having to worry about that.
Correct.
Now it's totally different.
oh yeah, it is. And I mean, so NECMEC stats on the child enticement that actually resulted in a kidnapping. It was over a couple year span. There's a few hundred. It was over 400. So most of these kids are found over state lines. There's still like 1 or 2% that are missing, which is awful.
Does that trip it to federal if they take them across state lines?
Yeah, it can.
Good.
It can. And as it should.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's not like the creepy dude in the van. It's, these average suspects, they're male white and they're mid to late 20s.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
On the online enticement.
Yes.
That makes more sense because they grew up with that tool.
That's my thinking too.
Yeah.
That's my thinking too. I mean,
if I try to apply this to my father, he wouldn't be able to entice anything.
Yeah.
Because he'd be DMing Michael, like
Pictures
sending
of
him
his feet.
accidental pictures of his feet from his sofa.
Yeah.
Which let me tell you, nobody wants to see those raven claws. It's
I'm sure, man. I'm sure.
50 years of feet in rugby boots. You know what I mean, Michael?
No, I didn't see the picture, thankfully.
I heard you, to totally tangent, I heard you scored another try playing rugby.
I did. In practice, let's clarify. In practice.
What I hear when he says that is he was out on a field by himself with a ball running around, and he scored what he thought was basically a touchdown, but in rugby.
Well, if you made it across
Essentially,
the line,
that's
it
what
works.
happened. Yeah.
That's what I told Leah
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Because she was all excited. Oh, I heard Michael scored another try. We were at breakfast today. Like, my middle son's home from college, and these two fucksticks are over at the house with my dad. He could watch rugby for 10 centuries straight, and they're talking about all these drills. And yeah, Leah's all excited that Michael scored a try. I'm like, listen, there was nobody else there. Nobody was chasing him. Let's back it off the edge here a little bit.
Yeah, that's basically what happened.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I tell her you are out in the field by our townhouse, and that's where you
Yeah.
score all the tries.
Yeah.
Where nobody else is out there
I
with
just
you.
do my own practices.
That's what I'm talking about. Put it on the board.
A win's a win.
Yeah. So, stranger danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So how did you, so the guy was asking you, how can you not work these things? Was that
Yeah.
kind of your intro?
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. That was.
At least got you thinking about it?
It got me thinking about it. Definitely got me looking at things through a different lens. I think the interest was always there. It's just it's intimidating. It's gross, and it like those are the investigations that are just they stick with you, man.
Yeah.
You know. So I never got a chance to do that in LA County. By the time the riots kicked off, my son was just born. And told my wife, I go, we're out, dude.
Yeah.
We are out. So applied with a couple departments out in Idaho and got hired.
Pretty easy transfer. You don't have to go back through an academy, any of that stuff?
It's like a lateral academy.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like
I feel like
10
that's a
weeks.
little bit of a gentleman's course.
It was. I'll tell you what. I mean, so all the other
As
California.
it probably should be at a certain amount of experience level.
Yeah. I would say so. I mean, it was a 10-week academy.
Yeah.
There was other California laterals in there, all from Southern California. And the academies in Southern California are all pretty similar. It's a full stress academy. It's 22 weeks of just screaming and PT and, get your day ruined every day. So wind up there and sit in that position of attention and just waiting for the hammer to fall. And they're like, hey, there's coffee and bagels. And we're like, that's a trap, dude.
Yeah. You're like, listen,
the
dude,
idiot
we've
gonna
played
try
this
that?
game.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
you don't go touch that stuff.
Yeah.
So it took about 3 weeks for anybody to actually make it over to the coffee pot and pour some.
And not get screamed at.
Yeah, not get screamed at. Exactly. I don't think anybody got screamed at. I was like, this is like a vacation,
Yeah.
man. This is great.
There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
So made it through the 10 weeks and went out and did patrol training again, which was a blast. I really enjoyed the city I was working in. Kind of reminded me a lot of the city that I was in before, just on a smaller scale, and not having the same issues as Southern California did. So
Yeah,
it was
I get it.
it was a lot of fun.
I
And
moved from Southern California up here too. I totally understand what you're saying.
yes, yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, dope's a felony here. This is great. You're taking people to jail for
Is
drugs.
it still a felony though?
in Idaho?
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah,
How about weed?
it's still a misdemeanor.
Michael, it's federally illegal. What is it in? It's recreational and medicinal here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's not a misdemeanor at all?
No, I don't think so.
That's weird that it can be state legal but federally illegal.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know
super
how that
weird.
works.
I don't know how to understand how it works either.
Yeah,
I'd say we're a couple election cycles though. I feel like they probably at some point will decriminalize weed.
probably.
I think more than half the states are already at least medicinal, if not recreational.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, Idaho's one of those funky ones where I don't know if they'll ever legalize it. In fact, I heard, I don't know how true this is, but I heard that they're like, oh no, we want to make the penalties stiffer for possession of marijuana.
So 49 out of 50 states will be
Yeah,
slightly more progressive than Idaho.
yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, man, just went out there and knowing that I wanted to go work, special victims type work. Did the patrol thing. Got a really great opportunity to help out in the detective bureau there, and let me back up a little bit. before I started the academy there, I got put in with a detective unit just to like, hey, you're waiting for a date, just help out.
Do you have to go to a different school or additional training to become a detective?
Yes.
What do they teach you?
It's like basics of investigations.
Okay.
I think it could
Like
be
a process, or
not quite.
yeah,
Not quite.
again, I think people think Sherlock Holmes would be a non-fictional detective where you're out there and, you're just leaping to conclusions, and
Yeah.
a CSI laboratory can get you results in 6 minutes as opposed to 6 months. And
Exactly. Yeah.
okay.
So this is going to change, state to state where, yeah, you've got to go through this extensive training to become a detective in some places. And some places you make detective and you're doing work and then they throw you in a course whenever it comes up. So with this first agency that I was with in Idaho, they tossed me in there. I talked with the sergeant. I go, this is my background. This is what I'm used to writing and running investigations. And they're like, okay, cool. Thanks for telling me that. Here's a full caseload. All right. So started doing that and then hit an academy and then went on to patrol training, kept real close with the detectives there and, still stopping in, saying hi, showing my face. It got to a point when I was working there, being the sole breadwinner, I just couldn't make that one work anymore. So I loved that city and that department. Just financially.
Couldn't do it, yeah.
Couldn't do it anymore. So applied for another agency and got hired on. And same thing, not so much the academy. It was just straight in, do the patrol training portion. And first thing I did was go and talk with detectives when I got there. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm, real passionate about crimes against children and special victims type work. I'm like, perfect. Sounds good, man. We'll get through the field training portion. And when a spot comes up, put in for it. So as luck would have it, a couple spots opened up as I was coming towards the end of my training or just finishing and put in, and we were off to the races, man. Got in.
What kind of additional training do they give you to prepare you for the shit you're going to see in the special victims or ICAC world?
So they don't really provide that for you. I went and sought additional training through, it's like free training that ICAC does, but it doesn't prepare you for what you're actually going to see.
That's what I'm going to say. How the fuck do they on-ramp you for that?
There's
Did you do like the full Clockwork Orange and they just put
they probably should. They probably should.
I think if they did that, somebody who went through something like that would just be like, yeah, I'll go back on the street.
There's like an emotional survival or a emotional readiness class. And I shouldn't even say class. I think it's a couple hours. It's a block built within, a 1 or 2 day course on how to investigate those kinds of crimes. But it's just like, hey, you're going to see some really bad stuff. And we have a psych on staff. And talking about ICAC. Yeah. They've got a psych on staff and it's mandatory. You got to go talk to her like once a quarter or something like that. But, working and with that first agency, I got to work a couple of cases where it was like ICAC type cases where you're dealing with child pornography and that kind of thing. So I knew kind of what that stuff was. And this is going to sound terrible, but I mean, these cases that I was working with that first agency, these girls were 8, maybe youngest at 6 years old, which is atrocious. It's terrible, but it's not the, infant torture and infant rape and that kind of thing. Yeah. So there's some really just like, I thought I knew what evil was kind of thing. And then I went and worked ICAC. So, and for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children, they're, gosh, I can't remember how many task force entities they have around the country, but generally it's going to be the state investigator's office and their investigators attached to that task force, and then affiliate positions with local agencies around that state. And so, when you get a cyber tip or whatever the case may be, it gets, I guess, tasked over to that law enforcement agent, whoever's attached to that task force. But the nice thing is you've got the whole state investigator's office there behind you.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So, left that first agency, went to the second one, said, this is what I'm really wanting to do. got in with the detectives. I was working major crimes and position open for ICAC. And I was like, man, I want to go do that. Like, those are the people I want to go after. So I was the only person who put in for it.
Shocking.
Right. And got that spot and went over and started working those investigations.
How long was it until you realized you were in some pretty deep waters?
Man, I made it about 6 months. So I've got a little kid. He's going to be 5 this coming July. So, you know, like I said, I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. Those were the crimes I really wanted to, you know, investigate. And those are the bad people I really wanted to go get. The problem is when you're working those investigations, you get what's called a cyber tip from National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And at this time, Idaho's backlog for cyber tips was terrible. They've since got it figured out. And I think they're one of like the highest producing units in the nation right now. They're doing great. But at that point, it was just, all right, we got to get these cyber tips out and start investigating them. And man, a lot of those after I kind of got my feet wet were just atrocious, man. I mean, we're talking like, you know, infant rape, torture, really young kids, under 2 years old, a lot of them.
Did you ever roll up any of those guys? Catch them?
Mm-hmm.
What are they like when you're sitting across the table from them? And
Oh,
I'm
man.
curious as to, I mean, obviously the internet lives forever to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, the people try to obfuscate and hide stuff, but you know, there's white hackers or white hat hackers and all that stuff that help law enforcement, and you know, it leaves a breadcrumb. Today's episode is brought to you by ExpressVPN. I do not know how many times I have had conversations with individuals, with brands, with organizations talking about online security. Let's be real honest about our anxiety rectangles right here. Most of the interface that we have, unless you're being super targeted, and I mean you targeting the information that you're looking for, our attention is being monetized. That's what this is about. I'm on Instagram. I do my best to manage my time on Instagram, but you can almost feel it. It's barely behind the curtain of they are trying to monetize your attention, to keep you on there, to keep you scrolling, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the VPN, except when you start talking about privacy, people's ability to track you, brands' ability to track you. So a VPN is a virtual private network. And I have some examples actually of where I've had to use a VPN, even just when I'm traveling, to upload the podcast so I could get around local country restrictions. And I had to change my location from the country that I was in back into the US so I could actually access portals like Spotify, which, if people didn't know, isn't allowed in all countries. So it's really tough to upload if you're in one of those countries. A virtual private network is a secure tunnel between your device and the internet. You would like to believe that on your device you have unfettered access to all information throughout the world. The reality is, though, each country serves up different types of info. If you don't believe me, download ExpressVPN, change your country to somewhere other than the United States, or if you're in the United States, go to somewhere else. And it'll be really interesting to see what they have to offer. I see it the most when you're talking about things like Netflix, the local offerings in the area, which totally makes sense. But if you think that your Netflix screen interface is what everybody sees, that's 100% not the case. VPNs allow you to connect to a secure server, and your internet traffic goes through an encrypted tunnel that nobody can see into, including hackers, governments, or your internet service provider. They have servers in 105 countries, best-in-class encryption, lightning-fast speeds, trusted server technology, and it works on every platform. So iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux, routers, and more. There's no activity logs. You can use on up to 8 devices, and it's the world's #1 premium VPN. If internet privacy, security, and the ability to look at what you want to look at, away from the prying eyes of a government sounds good, head over to expressvpn.com/clearedhot. You can get up to 4 extra months for free, just for listeners to the show. That is expressvpn.com/clearedhot. Let's get back to the show. Do you try to get them how do you do it? Because I imagine it like, in the Matrix, where he puts the fucking massive file down. He's like, Mr. Anderson. And unwinds it and flips it open and starts going through the pages. Do you lay it out for them, or do they know they're fucked when they're sitting there anyway?
I don't know if they know. They must know why we're there. And they've got to know.
I suspect they have a pretty good suspicion.
Right. Do they think they can get away with it? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going through their head at that exact moment, but if I put myself in their shoes, there's a reason why there's a lot of these suspects end up called taking a brass plea. They usually take themselves out. Not usually, but it happens quite a bit with those types of investigations.
I wish it would happen more.
Yeah.
I would again volunteer my services to any agency that needs help with this. I just need a blanket pardon and an address and an 8.5 by 11 glossy headshot.
And obviously, I don't condone any violence or anyone taking their own lives, but it does.
I condone pedophiles taking their own lives. I would feel comfortable going on record with that. I'm okay with the pedophile killing themselves.
Oh man,
I don't say that, and I don't say that lightly. And there's very few things that I would be okay with that with. But somebody that harms children like that, fuck off into the sunset.
Yeah, that's a rough one, man. Like most criminals, you take a murderer, and just someone who is just a sociopath. And be like, hey, pedophiles, yeah, no? And they're like, absolutely not.
I do appreciate how they get treated in prison.
It is not a good experience.
And I appreciate that. Even among criminals, there's honor among thieves. And from what I've heard from some people who are deeply in the know, it is a rough ride.
It is
no
not
pun intended.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, I did a relatively short time in that task force, and those investigations are so detailed and they take a long time. You're writing a lot of legal process to different entities to try and get information to put your case together. So while I was in there with ICAC, I had investigations going. I wasn't able to get one to a point where I was taking my guy, but I was also, before that, taking people for similar type crimes, right? Producing child pornography.
But what's it like sitting in the room with those people? Do they seem normal?
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there's some dudes where you go, that's
very stereotypical, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the dude living in his mom's basement, and he's got the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, and it says, like, I don't know, I heart anime or whatever on there. It's always anime or Star Wars. I don't know why.
Michael?
Yes.
I believe I've seen you in both of those shirts.
Often at the same time.
We're going to need to open a case.
Dude,
First off, don't ever wear your Star Wars shirt again, because that's what it means now. We're going to double leg anybody we see wearing a Star Wars shirt on the street.
For the record, I don't have a Star Wars shirt.
Yes, you do.
I just want people to know that.
Dude, and listen, this isn't 100%. I like Star Wars.
Stats.
I can't.
I get it. It's a trend. All right.
It's a trend. It's always anime or Star Wars.
How do they act when you're laying it out and they realize they're fucked?
It's either...
Is there a breaking point for them?
Generally, yeah. So there's the denial, and it's usually a very soft denial, like, no, I didn't do that. And you can kind of see them melting.
Flip the page.
Right.
Mr. Anderson.
Right. So for example, one of the cases that's adjudicated at this point, this guy, he was basically grooming his niece from a super young age. And this is one of those cases where she had her own cell phone, but she also had a burner phone that her uncle gave to her.
Oh, of course.
Right. So, and that's where they communicated through Facebook. And over the course of quite a few years, I think she was 12 or 13 when her case landed on my desk. But he had been, sexually abusing her, online enticement type stuff. Hey, sneak out of your house and come over. I love you. I'm going to leave my wife and we're going to get married, and all sorts of stuff like that. Right. So we get to a point where we can make an arrest. And we come to find out that he had been producing photos of her and had those on his phone. So we get those photos, we put our whole case together. We rewind on that. We knew about some of these photos. I didn't know how many, though, but I had 2 or 3 at the time. We arrest him, bringing him in for the interview. And at that point, I mean, this guy's like, he doesn't know how much we know, right? But as we're laying it out for him, you can see him kind of sinking. And the denials become weaker and weaker and weaker. And eventually are just like, hey man, like we know you showed up to a park to have sex with your niece. Like you haven't been talking to your niece for the past 3 weeks. You've been talking to me and my partner. So we know what's up and we have all your messages and we have the photos inside the truck. You showed up with a moving blanket down on the bench seat. Mm-hmm. You got condoms in the car, flowers, and the chocolate that we asked you to bring.
Jesus.
Right? Like that kind of thing. So he gets to a point where he goes, yeah, okay, nope, I showed up. This was the reason. I was trying to get back at my wife because we've been having issues and yada, yada, yada. So, which that's a lie, but thanks for telling me that.
Yeah.
And finally,
there's a variety of probably other fucking legal means that you could get back at your wife if you wanted to.
Right.
Or don't be a dipshit. Maybe sit down and talk with your wife.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the last thing that we showed them were the photographs. They were we call it sanitized, right? So we sanitize the photos.
Digitize it out or whatever. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And put them down and go, hey, what about this photo? Is that her? And he goes, yeah. And I go, that finger right there in that photo, is that your finger? And he goes, yeah. And take this one. Yep. Take this one. Yep. Take this one. Yep. All right, cool. So, God, last year he got 30 years, which still I don't think is quite enough, but
it's enough if every day somebody is wearing him like a condom while fucking somebody else.
Yeah.
That's where my mind goes with that.
I don't think he's having a good time.
I hope it's the worst ever.
Yeah.
Not that it would be better if it was somebody who was unknown. His fucking niece.
Yeah.
And again, this is where the stranger danger thing, we have to do a better job of presenting a realistic picture of where the danger comes from. And it might be coming more real because of the ability of the interconnectedness. But that story, that level of connection, somebody that you knew is so much more common in the conversations that I've had than the random unknown.
Yeah, it's like upwards of 80% of abuse cases, the abuser is somebody the child knows.
Yeah.
So it's there's a million stories like that, unfortunately. So parents had no idea that this girl had a burner phone that uncle gave to her.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, gosh, if this podcast saves one kid, like, dude, awesome. This is all worth it. And that's my goal, is to try and get info out to parents. But it's like, listen, if you've got a kid that's a teenager, don't be shocked if they have a burner phone. Go, like, be a parent, toss their stuff, go look through their rooms. And
that brings up an interesting. So answer as broadly as you need to. I'm curious in that. Oh, you said it was adjudicated. So
yes.
But again, obviously, answer however you're most comfortable. In that situation, how was that uncle able to convince her that A, what was happening was normal in any way, shape, or form, and B, get her to a place where the burner conversation's not telling an adult? How does that happen?
So we don't have the chats from when they first started talking.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a level of proximity, so we know how they how they met, right? It wasn't a creepy dude with an ice cream van down by the river. Correct. Which Michael would fall for 100% of the time, if I'm being honest. But so it's not that, right? So they're probably they're having Thanksgiving, whatever it may be, whatever. And so I'm fascinated. How do they convince maybe she was just too young to understand, but the burner phone, the sneaking out, how? God.
So I think, and I can't speak for her, but from what we did hear from her, this started when she was super young. Okay. And it's, hey, this is a secret. If you tell anyone, like, your mom and dad they're never going to talk to me again. They're probably going to get divorced. It's all your fault. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. And there's usually something to that effect. Yes. That keeps a kid quiet. And then it just kind of grows from there, especially like he's got access to her all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was always a small touch. And then it became, all right, well, I touched your knee, so now I'm going to try and touch your thigh. And now
the boundaries just get pushed and pushed and pushed microscopically.
Yes. And he was patient, didn't push it. And he just, he was able to get her to a point where she knew that it wasn't normal. She said, I don't like this. It makes me feel gross, but it just kind of is what it is. And I think that there's a lot of kids that deal with that, and it's tragic because you're a kid. You don't know any different. Yeah. So I think she just got to a point where it's normal. And if something bad happens, it's my fault. And she was.
How did it end up on your guys' radar?
Parents found her phone.
The burner.
Yes.
Did they know it was the uncle?
Yes, because he was talking to her through his Facebook account.
Oh, I would have definitely gone a non-legal route with that.
I told her dad, I said, hey, like, man, I appreciate the amount of restraint that you have. It was honestly, it was commendable, the amount of restraint that he had.
I don't think I have it. I also feel like the legal system should allow, before they're sent to prison, somewhere between 5 to 30 minutes alone in the room with the person.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, just kind of happens. It
is what it is.
You have a 30-minute pardon.
Have that. It's
what
a rage
happened?
room,
Yeah,
man.
what happens in here? We don't
rooms.
know. There's no cameras. There's no windows.
Yeah.
The door locks from the outside. We're just going to put you in there, and we'll be back in 30.
Yeah. This girl said something that, like, I mean, it breaks my heart. She had mentioned when she was being sexually abused, she goes, it made me feel gross, but it was confusing because it also, like, it felt good because, that portion of your body is supposed to feel good. It's not supposed to feel pain, right? So, I mean, you can imagine how in a young child, 10 years old, give or take, how confusing that has to be.
Well, how does that not scramble your eggs for the rest of your life, too?
Right. And she's got a great family.
Yeah.
I stopped by their house not too long ago just to check on them, see how they're doing. And she's doing great.
Good.
Grades are good. I mean, I don't think I've ever been so blown away as, like, watching some of these kids come out of these situations and just rebound as well as they do. And some of them don't.
Yeah.
Which is tragic. But I mean, man, it's wild. It's wild how well they can do.
So in that instance, the parents found the burner phone.
Uh-huh.
When people are into this type of shit, is there almost a community of people that communicate back and forth? I'm curious how a lot of the reality is, the hard reality to absorb is, if there's a smart person out there that wants to do really fucked up shit and they're able to compartmentalize it well, it may never hit law enforcement radar.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there's any tendencies, and it's not like I'm trying to give a shopping list to people that maybe you never know where this may go.
Right.
So again, answer however you want to, but it seems as if there would be a slip up or an error along the way where it finally lands on radar for law enforcement.
Yeah. And, I was thinking about this exact exchange.
Yeah, because you don't want to
there.
educate the predator either.
Correct. And the fact of the matter is, like, criminals do dumb things, but they're not stupid. They're usually pretty smart.
Yeah.
And so if I was a criminal and I want to find out how I'm going to get better at what I do or how I can get away with it, I'm going to seek out the cop talking to a guy on a podcast about what I'm doing and try and get away with, like, take some notes down.
Yeah.
Right. So
Like, hide burner phone better.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately thinking about that as we're having this conversation, because I have an immense amount of empathy for the victim and absolutely none for the fucking predator.
Yeah.
And I don't want to educate them at all anyway.
No. And I'm trying to be really careful about my words here because I don't want to give anything away. And we're not going to talk about investigatory tactics or anything like that. But to the person who is listening to this that maybe is looking for that tip, you're not going to find it here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how good you are on the internet. The internet's a big, big place, but it's not that big. And there's always a tidbit that leads back to you, that bad guy. And I guarantee you at one point that your name has come across the law enforcement officer's desk, whether it's local, state, federal. Like we hear all the time about how underfunded law enforcement is in these units that work sex crimes against kids and all these things. They're underfunded, understaffed. And sometimes that's true. But if you're the person that's going after kids and you're listening to this right now, like I hope this keeps you awake at night, knowing that the people who work these units they're fucking bulldogs, man. Like it's bite, it's hold, it's chew. I'm going to find you eventually. And there's always a breadcrumb somewhere in all the data that comes back to that person, or it comes back to their house. And now you got a SWAT team busting down your door and detaining your whole family and going, all right, well, which one of you is into kids? And it's coming. So I guess my urge to you is stop what you're doing now before it's too late. And man, go find Jesus, because that's the only way you're going to get any sort of mercy, any sort of grace, because it ain't coming from me. That's not my job. It's not the job of the prosecutor.
Some of them can stop.
That's the problem. They can't.
Well, the problem with that problem is they don't allow for what I consider to be the reasonable solution, which is lights out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like a rabid dog, right? Everybody says, it's like, oh, if a dog bites a kid, we put it down. You're right. We do. And obviously, I'm not condoning any violence here, but
you leave that to me, sir.
Yeah,
I'm not a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, right. It drives me nuts that you can't fix it. You can't fix it. And I talked to my wife about this not too long ago, where like, if I can keep myself zoomed in on this is my casework, I'll be okay. I can keep myself held together pretty good. But if I zoom out and I go, oh boy, 2023, 36 million cyber tips, over 105 million files shared, and you can't fix it, man.
Yeah, it's like trying to drink a waterfall.
Correct. So I don't want these people to learn anything from this podcast besides like
that your day is coming.
Your day is coming.
Well, let me ask you this along those lines. In your experience, when you're getting to that point where the objections or denials are weakening, and then you finally, it's like, hey, man, how often do they want to flip on somebody else? And I ask this because the local cops here, even like the petty theft, they're like, hey,
yeah,
if I were to have information for you, could I enjoy, not being in jail for 96 hours?
Yeah.
And, they'll try to tell you where a stolen bicycle is. So it's not as if people in the criminal world are unwilling to flip on others. I'm curious, though, how it is with something of this level.
Man,
And are they more lone wolves, or do you find that there are groups of people that communicate?
There's groups of people who communicate. Whether they're in the same local area or not I'm sure that exists. You've got multiple people, same local area, who are into the same nasty stuff. But there's also, the internet being the internet, it's worldwide. You do get those communities where it's, all these people, one chat room from around the world. So the chances of arresting one guy and going, hey, I need you to flip on a buddy and we'll take it easy on you. First of all, like, we can't really do that. It's hard to prosecute a case.
They could maybe flip and like, hey, this is where I communicate with people who are like-minded.
Right. So, and that works.
Yeah.
That works. The issue is they're probably going to give us something we already know.
Which seems to be the case with the bicycle guys up here too.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just they're trying to get out of the local jail 24 hours earlier.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, the same tweaker that steals all the bikes? Yeah, thanks for the stale info, dude. Yeah, man. So this world is so big and complex that I don't even know if that juice would be worth the squeeze. Maybe on the federal level, it might be.
I mean, if they did have access to something or a portal because I feel like law enforcement, and I say this, I've never spent a second in it, is a chess match.
Yes.
It's the same thing as what I used to do overseas too. We would have a tactic, they would watch, they would evolve. Sometimes they would fuck us up, we would watch, and it was just constantly back and forth.
Yeah.
So I have to believe that the people that participate in this understand that they're broken in some way.
Yeah.
But they also probably understand that there are others out there like them. And isolation, if COVID taught us anything, is that isolation fucks human beings up.
Yes.
And not that I want there to be a portal or way for these people to either share access and means or their own techniques and procedures, but they're out there trying to figure out ways to do what they do to avoid and evade law enforcement. And I feel like they're constantly out there looking for ways to communicate with others who are like-minded.
Sure.
Outside of the purview of law enforcement.
So it does get more difficult. So courts make things more difficult, right? It's not like every time they make a decision that it makes it less restrictive on law enforcement.
Yeah.
Usually gets more restrictive. And on top of that, when you're talking about cyber crimes of any kind, everything's going over to encrypted. Everything's,
Yep.
so it makes getting your legal process through a little bit harder. It's not impossible. It just makes things harder.
Yeah, it's evolving.
It's evolving. Exactly. And these people know that. They know that. They're not, again, they do dumb things, but they're not stupid. So the tactics change. We have to adapt with the tactics. And there's constantly new trainings coming out, and there's new tactics coming out, and there's new forensic software that comes out. And it's constantly evolving to try and keep up with the way that technology is going. I think where things get so difficult is with how massive the issue is, right? Mm-hmm. And then you got your people who are into the images themselves, and statistically speaking, most of them are hands-on offenders at one point or another. But I could see where if you got the guy who's if he's pimping out kids, mm-hmm. maybe. But then again, most of those people, it's interfamilial type stuff. It's a parent pimping out a kid, so they might not know who the other people are pimping out their kids.
Is the problem more prevalent than you think most people would want to admit?
Dude, 100%. 100% it is. The numbers are just staggering. Like we just talked about COVID, and we just talked about, cyber tips. So 2019, the cyber tips it was like 16 million roughly. And you fast forward to 2023 during the whole COVID type deal, jumped up to like 36 million.
Jesus.
It's a huge, huge jump. And part of the reason is because we said, hey kids, you're no longer going to school. Here's a device, go home, do your homework. And both parents are working. So you got just like all these kids on a computer all day. And you had dudes in chat rooms that were looking for kids, and they literally called it harvest time. They knew that all these kids were home alone and went after them. And so now you got these cyber tips that they include the child enticement. They include the solicitation of nude photos, or just dudes sending unwarranted photos to children, or they're acting like they're children and they're not. Those cyber tips include all of that. So it's just this massive spike, and I haven't seen the 2024 numbers. I would imagine they're probably about the same. Who knows what 2025 is going to look like? But it's not like there's less internet. It's just...
No, it's evolving. And
it's evolving.
Like you said, the encryption is evolving as well, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an uphill battle for sure. How long were you able to stay on the ICAC task force?
I made it about 6 months. I'll be honest,
what
man.
Was the tipping point?
Oh man. So it was kind of a few things. I stepped in there on the wrong foot as it was. I had a partner down in LA County that was killed, Ryan Klinkenbroomer, on September 16th of 2023. And then the following week, I started in that unit. So I'm just messed up over losing Ryan. I go to this new unit, and it's off to the races. You're learning as you go. Like, here's your caseload, have at. And it started out pretty solid. I was loving it. And then getting to the point where it's like, 4 or 5 months in, where I know what I have to go do today. I know I'm going to go see this stuff. And I'm like literally in tears on my way to work, like just not in a good space, dude. And my wife knew it. And she's watching me like circle the drain. Like I can't give my kid a bath. I can't change, put him in a new pull-up or new underwear. I was a mess and wasn't really talking to anybody about it, and didn't really talk to any of the guys at the unit about it. And it was at the point where, I'm working these cases that it was just constantly like little kids. I mean, there was a video, little girl, and she had the same baby blanket that my kid had. And it just like that one sucked.
That's going to blow your brain up.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like what they tell you when you work that unit is, hey, on the videos, you're going to watch the video with the audio off, and then you're going to minimize the video and play it again with the audio on. Because when you write your affidavits, you have to describe what you're seeing and what you're hearing.
I feel like there's a way to automate that particular fuck.
Man, yeah.
What normal person could do that and not be completely destroyed?
I'm not quite sure. I will tell you, I've got my head back together at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could go do it. I don't know if I actually can or not. But I've worked with guys who've been working that stuff for like over a decade.
Here's a fucked up question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of somebody who specialized in ICAC stuff that ended up actually being one of these predators?
Yeah, I have. And I was kind of amazed when I put in for this spot that they didn't really screen for like, hey, are you into this stuff?
I feel like that should be in the world we live in. I would like
Yeah.
to imagine a world where you don't have to ask that question.
I would too.
That's like saying, hey, do you eat your own shit? Like,
right.
Why would anybody ask that? Of course I don't eat my own shit.
Yeah. You hear about it, and I don't know if I know that it's not super common, right? But you
Yeah.
do hear about it. It's one of those where
But
you
if
always
you
hear the
were a
negative thing.
fucking predator and you wanted to have unfettered access, holy shit.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's the same thing. Like the people who are into kids, then they work at schools, they work at a daycare, they're the
Shockingly enough,
scoutmaster.
they spend time where children are.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that. It's like a drug addict hanging out at a flop house. You're going to go where the dope's at. Mm-hmm. So it's no different.
How did they catch the cop?
Gosh, I don't know, but I hope there was
So you have heard of it, though.
I have heard of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know these people personally.
Yeah.
I've heard the stories about it. But this is my personal opinion is if you're the general Joe public and you're doing this stuff, you need to be treated very harshly. If you're a cop doing this stuff, strip that uniform off because you don't deserve it whatsoever. You're a disgrace, and you should be treated twice as harshly as that person.
I mean, think about the long game that person would play.
Correct. To get into that unit.
Well, not only that. I mean, I would assume that they probably didn't develop a desire for that because they volunteered for that unit. So you probably can imagine that it was even maybe before, who knows, lifelong.
Yeah.
So they bury that and then wear a mask that's good enough that they get into law enforcement.
Right.
Work their way towards that unit. I mean, that's a long game.
It is. And in a sense, it makes it even more.
It's even more
nefarious.
fucked up and
Yeah,
devious.
that you have to play that game that long to get into a unit like that. Because you hear about cops, firemen, politicians, you name it. These people who are put in positions of trust that get caught like a sting, right?
Not politicians, though.
Never.
Cops and firemen, for sure.
Yeah. Never politicians, ever.
I like the cops or the firemen that end up pyromaniacs and they're bored, so they're lighting fires.
Yeah, man. Dude, how are you supposed to be a hero if you're not putting out fires? You got to make them
These
somehow.
goddamn building codes just keep getting better with these auto sprinklers.
Sons of bitches.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, if you were a pyromaniac and you had some intelligence, and again, I'm not trying to give a instruction manual.
Yeah.
But these are the things that I think about when I can't sleep. Like, what would a pyromaniac do if he loved fire? Probably fucking work with fire.
Right.
He's
Right.
either a Hollywood pyrotechnic specialist or probably an FDNY dude. And I don't know why I just said New York, but whatever. There's
a lot of firemen there.
Where was the movie
statistically
Backdraft, Michael? Which is, I know, a movie you haven't seen. Was it Chicago?
Seen it.
This fucking kid, dude. I
speaking.
swear to
I've not seen
God.
Backdraft though.
He hasn't seen the
I'm not
Boondock-
even a fireman. I've seen that multiple times.
He hasn't seen the Boondock Saints.
Nope.
Oh,
Was
man.
it Chicago?
I can't find it.
Unbelievable. Yeah, but Bull, spoiler alert to a 30-year-old movie, was lighting fires.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm surprised that there hasn't been a massive sex ring at either Disneyland or Disney World, to be honest.
We just don't know about it yet, is my guess. I mean, 'cause
Where
you-
there is there a lot of kids.
right?
Like in
You
Disneyland
hear
and
about
Disney World.
dudes getting hooked at Disneyland, or they're
Yeah.
they're Disneyland adjacent, right? They're
Yeah.
they're working there. They're working around Disneyland, and you hear about them getting
Yeah.
arrested quite a bit, and it makes sense. But yeah, man, the dudes that can do it forever, I'm thankful for them because it's a job that needs to be done. I just was not in a space where I could do it anymore and be any use to anybody, or like just not completely lose my shit. I mean,
I have to imagine that those task force however they're structured, I have to imagine that they understand that there is a limited amount of time where people can tolerate exposure to that.
Yeah.
That most people aren't going to do it for a decade or two.
Right. And it's, to my knowledge, it's like one of the few places where you put your name in, you get selected, you go do it, and you can tap out at any time.
Well, I was going to ask, when you went to whoever you needed to go and say, hey, you were done, I'm
Yeah.
assuming they didn't like, hey, man, get back in there. Just given the
Yeah.
gravity of the subject matter.
Oh, dude, for sure. Like it was right before I had to call it, maybe a week or two before. We helped, again, this is an adjudicated case, but we helped Homeland Security with a warrant. This guy was producing terrible stuff with son or daughter, I can't remember. But he was sending that material over to an undercover agent on the other side of the country. So they were able to track him back to this little town. HSI hit us up and said, hey, like, we need help with this search warrant. And we said, yeah, we're there. So
Does that flip it to federal too, even if it's the internet, cross state lines?
yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I don't know if you could play that both ways, local or federal. But generally speaking, if you take
Yeah,
that
'cause
to
that's
an
distribution
AUSA,
across
they're gonna
state
want
lines,
it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we get there and go into this dude's motor. I guess the situation is this guy's going through a divorce. Mom and kid live in the house. Dude lives in his motorhome
Like on the property?
on the property, like in the driveway. In the driveway. I don't know if mom ever went out into that motorhome or not, but I mean, it was disgusting. And in the back was like, you can't describe it as anything else except for like a child sex dungeon. It was horrific. Like little child-sized torsos, that are.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, it's a thing, and people advocate for it because they think it's oh well, they'll just take it out on that instead of actually seeking children, and that's obviously not the case because this guy got caught doing it.
I mean, here's an idea, right? You heard about the explosive pagers for Hamas?
Yeah.
That's where my mind goes.
Oh man, a little
got
pressure
an
sensor in there.
Yeah, I got an idea. Let's put about
Yeah.
pound and a half of C4 in that motherfucker.
Oh man, yeah. I'll tell you what, you're never gonna touch a kid again.
Well, it's because you'd be dead. That would
Yeah.
just detonate your entire pelvis.
Yeah.
Which, perfect.
I mean, in this little motorhome, I would imagine just the whole back end being removed all over the neighborhood.
Completely fine
all
with
over
that.
the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that I was already not doing great. Go and do that and seeing that stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not. Just yeah, dude. It was all bad. It was all bad. And then go back into work, and there was a video. And I'll spare the details, but just infant, being raped, and it was horrific. And it's one of those things you watch it without the audio, right?
Produced inside of that RV?
No,
Oh, okay,
no,
different-
this was a
case.
separate
Gotcha.
case. Sorry, separate case that I was working, and infant is having these terrible things happen to it, and it's like, dude, it's so messed up because you watch these videos without noise, and you go, I hope that this kid's dead, because I can't imagine what that's like, And I minimized the video and turned the audio on, and this baby is screaming, dude.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was terrible. And I ripped off my headset. I just walked out of the office and took a drive, and I called up my buddy who works child crimes. And I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore, man. Like, I'm not that I was going to do anything to myself. I just I just can't stand this stuff anymore. And so he was like, hey man, relax. You're good. Just bro, pull yourself out. You got to get out of there. And I was like, you're right. So I went to my sergeant's office and I was a mess in there. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And this is the first time that I've ever taken myself off of something in this career. And it sucked because that's all I wanted to do was go work those kinds of crimes. But I got to a point where I just could not, I couldn't function, man. I couldn't function.
Did they give you some time off?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, hey, take the rest of the week off.
Oh, really? A whole
Yeah.
3 or 4 days?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, and
Jesus.
And I appreciate it. I came in. No, look, that my agency, I can't express how awesome they are. Really. I come back in on, it's like a Monday or something for a meeting with the lieutenant. And he's like, look, dude, we fully expect for people just to not be okay when they leave this unit, whether they're there for 6 months or years. Like, do people leave that unit and I've heard have spent time in a facility, or they
That
just quit
seems
law
reasonable.
enforcement? Yeah, man. I mean, it scrambled me to a point like I've never been scrambled before. And that was truly a new feeling for me, because I was just able, I was pretty good at tamping everything down. Or so I thought, right? I look back now and I'm like, no, definitely not. You were good at wearing a mask, but it's like, you weren't that great at it. Yeah, man. So meet with the lieutenant, tells me, yeah, you're out. Don't worry about it. Like, we just need to make sure you're okay. And then went and worked. It was like a juvenile crimes type spot that wasn't too bad. And then we switched over to special victims.
Skittles theft crimes and gas station and shit.
Yeah, it's, it wasn't anything near as heavy as that.
And then you went to an additional unit, the special victims unit.
Right.
I mean, man, that's a step, I will say, back towards that direction, separated by some layers for sure. Why did you want to do that?
I still wanted to work crimes with kids, crimes that included child victims, which is, special victims, you're going to work with adult victims, you're going to work with child victims. And don't get me wrong, I've got a huge heart for, the adult victims that I work with too. Huge heart for them. But I think anybody would agree, like, it takes on a whole nother meaning when it's a child. Yeah. So getting to work those crimes and still, I'm not seeing and viewing this terrible stuff every day. I'm working those types of crimes still, but they're further and fewer between. But
How long have you been a cop now?
gosh.
Or a deputy?
Yeah.
I know the terms are not interchangeable.
I got hired in 2013.
All right, so 12 years.
Yeah.
How does it work in Idaho? Is it a certain number of years or 55?
Yeah, it's for retirement.
Yeah.
It's like a rule of 80. So it's like your years of service plus your age. If it makes 80, it's whatever percentage of your.
That's a fucked up way to do that.
Yeah, I don't quite understand the math.
Like I would just start that job at 72 then and do 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, you might
Full
as well,
retirement.
right? Dude. I'll be the first to admit, I should probably look more into the retirement side of things. I feel like it's so far off, and it's not. It's 20 years, but it's close enough. I should probably know more about it. I just, I've been putting it off. I should know more about it. I don't.
You get time.
Yeah.
Is there a way to use technology to reduce the burden on the humans that have to deal with that stuff? Like, I didn't realize you had to watch the video in two different forms, or watch it once and then listen to it. There's got to be a way. No human could do that without scrambling their fucking eggs.
Is there something that could do that? Maybe, probably. I think it gets dicey. Maybe if you have like almost like an AI system where you're
It
not
has to reach a legal standard, right?
It would have to reach a legal standard, but it's also, if you dump this into an AI system and other people have access to that AI system, now you're like disseminating this type of stuff. I don't know. I would imagine we now have like a code for AI generated CSAM, which is great because that's becoming a more prevalent issue.
Yeah.
So is it possible?
Are the penalties less for that because it's not an actual human?
I don't know if it's that it's less, but I think the threshold to reach it is more.
God, I had not thought about the difference of it actually being a human victim versus AI generated.
And there's still arguments going on about that, right? Because some people are like, oh well, it's not a real person, so it shouldn't be treated.
It's a real
as such.
desire, though.
It's a real desire. So the way the code's written for like enticement, right? If I'm working undercover as a kid and somebody reaches out to me, I'm not a real kid, but they showed up to have sex with me.
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
I do like those YouTube videos where the people get busted in Walmart and they try to run.
Yes.
They're screaming, "Help me, help me." It's like, we're about to help you.
Yeah. I mean, like, and
What's crazy, though, is that some civilians are doing that like full vigilante style.
Yeah.
Not advisable.
Like, okay, Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because dude, it's happening all over the place. And I will say this, it's a rose and thorn moment. The rose is you're putting yourself between a real child and one of these predators.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Thorn is you're not a cop.
The thorn is you're not a cop and you're probably not going to meet the, Fourth Amendment standard for this to actually hold up in court. So there's a whole lot of training that goes into doing those undercover chats. And all you're really doing, if you catch this guy in a Walmart parking lot, you smack him in the face and send him on his way and you get 1 million likes on YouTube, that's cool. But you just made a smarter pedophile. He's going to go, oh man, I fell for that.
Is that enough? Let's say somebody does that. They go to Walmart, they tackle the dude, because I've seen a video like this. Law enforcement eventually shows up.
Yes.
It's like citizen's arrest. Fuck, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Is there enough probable cause for you guys to start looking into that behavior? Can you just, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Can you take the word, like this guy I'm here, he was supposed to meet my 12-year-old sister. They could show you that. Is that enough PC to get you guys looking in that direction of that person?
I would say so. Would I take that person to jail? I don't know.
I was going to say, because if you don't take him to jail, he might change his behavior and get the fuck out of there.
Sure, but I think on the other side is when you do take someone to jail, like your clock starts.
Yeah.
If I can take a report, take this weirdo's name down, all of his information, hand it off to a detective.
That's what I'm saying. Could they start looking at him?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say that's probably how I would go. Like, I can't take this dude's chats, some random dude from whatever platform, and hand him to a prosecutor and be like, sure hope this is good enough. That's not going to fly. But if I can, if you're a patrol cop and you get one of these and you write it as like an information only type thing, or whatever, and you hand it off and maybe an investigation can start that way, I think that's a lot safer. I think you're going to have a better chance of this flying in court because now you're not using fruit of the poisonous tree, right?
Yeah. As much as I appreciate and understand the headspace of the vigilante video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's tough. And I'm so torn, right? Because I'm same boat. I'm like, this is who doesn't like watching that, right?
Yeah. The reality is though, like you said, it might get a bunch of likes. Nothing may be happening to that person. It may be the cracking the door and finally the spotlight is put onto them.
Right.
But yeah.
My concern is like, it's like fishing, right? You throw a lure in the water, you're throwing flies in the water, and the fish they could start recognizing what's food and what's not food.
Yeah.
You're going to start training these people. They talk with enough people who are trying to get a gotcha moment. Yeah. They're going to start finding out like, okay, what's real and what's not. And that to me is what's scary because we don't really get a whole lot of chances for proactive work in sex crimes against kids. We can put together a team and go, all right, cool. Hey, this night we're going to have, 4 or 5 dudes chatting online with these weirdos, and we'll have a house that they're supposed to show up to and a takedown team. Boom.
Those videos are also amazing.
And they're great, right?
Yeah. But that's also law enforcement on the other side of the door.
Correct. Yeah. There's a penal code section that says, hey, if we end up whooping someone's ass, like we're good as long as it's justified.
Well, and they're also living in, silver bracelets.
Yes.
So something is immediately going to happen to them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But that's, dude, you take 10 to jail in a night. That's awesome. That's a great night. You're not even putting a dent in the population, though. That's the problem. So it's not like you send a team of street cops out there and go, hey, this area's been having a lot of burglaries or a lot of dope, and we're just going to go rape and pillage, take everything to jail. It doesn't work like that. So the opportunity for proactive work on the sex crime side is really difficult. So we can't make smarter pedophiles. We really got to be careful about that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to ask you. I'm curious. I don't know how you could answer this question though without educating people. And that is, I'm just fascinated by the level of sophistication. There has to be probably a case or a person that sticks out of like, holy shit, had never thought of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you could even talk about that without educating people or giving somebody an idea.
Yeah.
But have you found in that predator pool highly intelligent, highly sophisticated people that have gotten away with this for a long time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Was it a stupid small mistake that they made that got them on your radar, or was it somebody else? Was it a tip? I mean,
The couple that come to mind, and these weren't my cases. These are cases from dudes who are, I mean, if I could be half the cop that they are, I'd be doing pretty good. But chatting with them, it's a mixture of both. It's a little bit of luck on the law enforcement side. And it's also, yeah, they made a mistake.
Yeah.
They made a mistake. But here's the thing is like, we all use the same internet, right? We all use the same dark web. Like, it's not like...
I mean, I've heard of the dark web and the onion round or
Yeah.
Tor and all that. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Dude, and there's so much to it. Like, if I tried to tell you what it is,
Yeah.
everyone in this room would leave more confused because
Yeah.
I can't articulate it quite right.
It's like an internet that's not an internet through a browser that's not a
Yeah.
browser. I'm already like, I gotta go.
Oh, dude. Yeah, exactly. That was one of my first questions when I went to ICAC
Yeah.
was, hey, do I need to be a computer nerd to work this unit? And they go, no, you need to be an investigator. The nerds are over there.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I have immediately disqualified myself if I have to understand that shit.
Yeah, I went and put myself through a bunch of training through ICAC's training portal. I'm like, this is an IP address, and it looks like this. And it's just, I mean, Barney style,
Yeah.
breaking it down.
I know what IP address stands for.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it means.
It's all of it is so confusing.
I know it's some numbers. I know it stands for Internet Protocol.
Yeah, I still hit up dudes from that unit. I'm like, I have this. What does it mean? And they're
Yeah.
like, let me take your hand.
Yeah.
and lead you.
Me with my father and his foot
Yes.
pictures.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So
I'm the dude. I'm my dad in this scenario when it comes to that type of stuff.
and most people are, but there's people who are really, really good at it, right?
Yeah.
Bad guys and good guys. So I guess the moral of the story is like, yeah, you can try and hide your identity through using the dark web, but that's only going to work for so long. You're eventually going to get caught. I think is the moral of the story on this one. Like I don't want people to think that I can just get away with doing whatever on the dark web. You can hide a little bit, but
Yeah.
you're eventually going to get found, man. You're eventually going to get found. We all use the same internet. We're all using the same, not all of us, but
Yeah.
the people using the dark web, it's all the same.
Yeah. All right. So there are some savants and super high level sophisticated people.
Yes.
What's the dumbest criminal you've ever come across? Because there's got to be the other side of the bell curve.
Gosh, there is definitely the other side of the bell curve.
Yeah. And generally, they think they're the smart ones. That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
features of these people.
I would say like low level, right? Especially now working in Idaho. It cracks me up. You get people from Oregon where they're like, it sounds like they're almost handing out heroin and meth. They're like, we have too much heroin and meth. Please take this.
I've heard Oregon has taken another look at their decriminalization
hope
policy.
So. I sure hope so.
Almost as if decriminalizing everything solves nothing.
Right. Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Right. But you got these people with heroin, meth, heroin's thing of the past now, fentanyl, meth, that type of thing. And they roll into Idaho and they get stopped and their car gets tossed and you find all this stuff. And they're like, I thought we were good. That stopped over there, man. That was about 80 miles, 90 miles that way, dog. That's not going to fly here. And then they go to jail for possession.
Yeah.
I mean, those people, to me, man.
I think I can one up that. Apparently, this is not uncommon, and I bet you've encountered this. And this is again through my local buddies. They roll somebody up.
Okay.
In their pockets is a shit ton of whatever, and they say, "Well, these aren't my pants."
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude.
Have you ever heard that one, Michael?
Oh, man.
Apparently, it's incredibly common.
Yeah.
But like, well, sir, or ma'am, whose fucking pants are these?
Well, that's the thing. That's crazy that somebody else's pants fit you so well, first off.
Yeah, they've been worn so well, and your Zin, was going to say dip, but your little Zin thing is just worn through, and it's weird that your wallet has the exact same imprint on these. Yeah, these aren't my pants.
Yeah, in my whole life, I've never worn somebody else's pants. So I think at this point, cops has been around since the late 80s.
Yeah.
I think people still try it. It doesn't work. I think we're on to you at this point. We're pretty sure that those are indeed your pants at this point.
Probably. I think they are too.
You might have fooled us back then in the 80s, but oh man, I don't know about
My buddies
now.
tell me that shit happens all the time.
All the time. And I think it's a panic
Or it's not my
response.
car.
Yeah.
It's registered to you.
Oh, yeah. Or they do like the tweaker car shuffle. They're like, oh no, so I picked this car up last week from my girl, and blah blah blah. And you try and call them, and this is a disconnected number, and you can't figure out whose car it is, and like, all right, well, you're going to jail for something. We just haven't found it yet.
All right, so let's reverse engineer this and think about this from the perspective of probably I would say from the lens of the parents more than the minor, because I feel like I have more listeners that are of age than are of underage. Given what you've seen, where would you start parents on keeping their kids safer? I'm not going to use the word safe. I'm going to say safer.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it, because unfortunately, like nothing is 100%.
There's risk to everything. If they leave your house,
there's
risk, but let's be honest. If you have a large family and they come over for Thanksgiving, they may not be safe even inside of your own house.
Right.
Depending. So, safer.
Yeah. I think, dude, honestly, like let's start out with what's free. What's going to cost you nothing? It's just conversations with your kids, as in like, hey, from when they're super young, these are your private parts. Nobody touches them but you. Or mommy and daddy when we're giving you a bath or helping you go potty or anything like that. But other than that, like nobody. And just being, keep drilling that into their head.
Have you found that with victims, that is a conversation that is often not had?
Yeah.
Or is that
it definitely happens.
I was going to say, is that a barrier that a family member might be able to break their way through? Because from a stranger,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like a stranger, that seems like it could be a harder barrier.
Yes.
And not that it should be a softer barrier, but we're talking about not fully formed brains.
Sure.
Family. Sure. Oh, he hugs mom and dad. You know what I mean? This is Uncle so-and-so.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're asking. I think you're right on the money, because there is
not the parents
difference.
Shouldn't do it. I'm
Correct.
just curious if that's a more malleable barrier for a known quantity.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between the neighbor touching you inappropriately and maybe a family member that it's still weird, it's still not right, and these kids they're not dumb. They go, whoa, this is really weird, but it's Uncle Bob, so maybe they don't say anything for a while. But at the same point, I mean, you do have the kids who, when they're super young, kids are going to act out what's done on them, right? So you get the kid at school that's touching the other kids inappropriately, and the teacher pulls them aside and goes, hey, those are our private parts. Nobody touches them but us, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And the kid goes, oh, well, daddy does that to me and makes me do it to him, right? So.
Oh, my God. I can't even fathom being a teacher on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, man.
I'm assuming that's a mandatory report in every state. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that case, it's like, it's almost normal for that kid, right? He's just saying, well, I think it's okay to do it because it happens to me.
Are they generally open about saying that, or is that something you have to claw out of them a little bit?
I think it depends on the kid. I think it depends on the kid, because some of them, you talk to them or have, they go in for a forensic interview and they just blah, everything.
Well, they probably think it's been conditioned into them that it's normal. So why wouldn't they talk about it?
Right, exactly. And then others, you really got to pry it out of them. I think that depends on the kid. But as kids start getting older, because I have seen like 5-year-olds with cell phones, which blows my mind. But as kids start getting older, that conversation starts shifting to like, hey, you're going to be trusted with a little bit more freedom. Maybe we're going to give you a phone. Maybe we're not. But your friends are going to have phones. And, they might show you some really bad stuff. They might show you pornography on their phone, and this is what pornography is, and it's not okay. Or this is, God, even drugs. Like you just buy drugs off of Snapchat these days, right? So
I've heard this. Never tried it, but I've heard it.
Yeah,
because I don't have Snapchat, nor do I want it.
Yeah, man.
Or Tiki-Taki.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you name it. We could probably. I'm not familiar with this area, but we could probably find someone to sell us dope in no time.
I have had people on the show who specialize in that, and they did a little research before coming on the episode. And trust me, anything you could possibly want is for sale.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. But dude, those conversations are make or break, and it's creating that trust. Or your kid's always going to be better at technology than you are. So be curious about what they have. Hey, can you show me how that works? Can you show me this, that, and the other? They're probably gonna show you. Kids are also sneaky though. So Like we talked about burner phones. We
Yeah.
talked about all these different things. I mean, kids are curious. Kids are sneaky.
I worry sometimes you hear parents say, well, I'm going to have an electronics-free household to a certain degree.
Right.
Or to a certain age. But if they go to school with people that have
Yeah.
smartphones, they have access to a smartphone.
Correct.
And it's so easy to, in this little bubble of the world that we can control, this doesn't exist. With my own kids, the older they got, the more influence their social circle had. And it was competing at best. Probably the kids had more influence over them at a certain age than I did. I mean, they've
that,
heard me
yeah.
say the same thing over and over again, but they're like, shut the fuck up, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and take a smartphone away from your kid or don't give them one. If they're ever unsupervised with their friends who have a smartphone, I hate to tell you, they're looking up shit or exposed to stuff you don't want them to see.
Yeah. Oh, dude, for sure. And I mean, here's the thing is, I tell people this quite often is you give your kid this phone with access to the internet, and now they've got access to the whole world, which is
the
awesome.
world has access to them.
Exactly. And maybe you take their phone away, but their friend has it, and same thing happens where, they're being exposed to this terrible stuff. Or these people who have access to your kid's friend now have access to your kid because they're hanging out in the same circle. They're all going to be doing the same things. So I think that's where it's really, you just got to have those conversations and drill it into them. Like, this is not okay. And you are going to see these things. It's not an if, it's, you are going to see these things. And I can only do so much. So you need to be aware of this, be aware that it's not okay, and be aware that you can come and talk to me about anything. I mean, something we haven't covered yet is like the sextortion side of things.
I was just going to say, I have tried to hammer into my kids that the internet is forever. Anything that you ever type into your phone, regardless of how pissed you are, how upset you are, you should at some point in time think at a job interview, somebody's going to slide something across the table and say, is this yours?
Yeah.
It lives forever. Pictures, random thoughts you want to type away on whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't disappear, and you have to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Snapchat's one of those where everybody says it's 10 seconds and it's gone.
Till you get a fucking warrant.
Yeah, exactly. Till you get a warrant. Exactly. And then we go, no, actually, it's kind of forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, the sextortion type thing, we're seeing a lot of, how do I put this? We're seeing the rate of teenage suicide skyrocket, and we're also seeing sextortion skyrocket. And I can't say that those two things are
Might not be causal, but they're probably correlated.
correct. And NECMEC put out a report about that, and I want to say it was 2023, but don't quote me on it. They said, hey, we can only confirm that 20 teen suicides were because of, not only, right?
Yeah.
Only 20 teen suicides are because of sextortion. And then they go, but we believe it's a lot higher.
Yeah, it could be a flawed reporting system.
It could be a flawed reporting system, or it's, hey, this kid didn't leave a note behind saying why this happened.
Yeah.
But you look into, their phone while you're doing the investigation and go, well, yeah, there's sextortion behind it. I can't say this is the exact reason this kid did this.
Yeah, but it exists.
But it exists.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a hard time believing that those two numbers aren't related, in some form or fashion. So having those conversations with your kid about like, you might be exposed to this. Somebody might hit you up and you make a poor decision, because we're all human beings and we all make poor decisions, and you send that photo, and it's actually not some cute blonde girl you're talking to. It's a dude, and he's going to start hitting you up for money and hounding you and hounding you and hounding you. And that's when you need to stop what you're doing and come tell mom and dad. And mom and dad, take the phone, don't erase anything, just keep it as is, and give us a call. Call the cops. If it's somebody that's overseas, we might be able to do something that we would hope, right? Somebody here on the stateside, absolutely, because your kid's not the only person that's happening to. They're talking to kids all over the country. And it's rising at this insane rate. And the pressure that it's putting on kids, it's like, yeah, how do you deal with that, like, shame? I can't go tell my mom about this.
But you can.
But you can. And
I mean, at the young age or early teen years, your optic on time is the end of the day, is the longest amount of time anybody's ever lived.
Absolutely.
And I'll never make my way through this. I'm going to be embarrassed forever. This is all that people are. No, none of that shit's true.
None of that's true. And I talk to parents who, I get a report on my desk and it's, hey, Johnny was talking with this girl who we thought was a girl, sends a picture of himself to her, and the extortion portion starts, right? The parents freak out, which is completely understandable. I'd be in the same boat. And they call us and we go, hey, relax. We got this. The only person that's in trouble here is the guy talking to your kid. Your kid's not in any sort of trouble. We don't want them to feel pressured in any sort of way. Like, this is the time where we back it up a little bit. Let's have a cool, calm conversation about how we, fix this, how we don't run into this issue again, right? A little bit of a tangent, but one of the ways that you fix this is through NECMEC, and they've got a program called Take It Down. And it's this awesome program where, hey, I sent this photo of myself and I really screwed up, right? Mm-hmm. You can take that photo, you drop it off to NECMEC, and then they do their best to scrub it from the internet.
Yeah, that's probably using some AI and looking for that in the
correct
digital signature of the picture. And
yes,
all that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's a beautiful use for that type of AI.
It is. So, and like if you're a kid listening to this or you're a parent listening to this and this happens to you, like it's gonna suck. That's not a fun position to be in, but you've got a whole law enforcement agency behind you. You've got NECMEC there. Yeah. You've got these options. So have those conversations with your kids, because it like legit could save their life. It could save their life. Like, we've all been teenagers before.
Thank God I didn't have a phone.
Dude, well, and that's the thing.
I noticed Michael taking notes off the corner of my eye. Yeah. It's like, takeitdown.com. It's like, son of a bitch. Yeah. I finally have a route to freedom.
There is an adult version for Take It Down also.
He's got his pencil out. Just
I don't remember that.
I'm on the website right now. I'm not even joking.
He's just airdropping shit from his phone. He's like, get this one, then this one, then this one. Yeah. What is there has to be some lore in the ICAC world of people working in that. What is the most prolific case of predator targeting?
Oh, man.
There's got to be some ones that are just like unbelievable scope, size, or scale.
Yeah, this probably is, I couldn't tell you, like, across the country, like, this is the be-all, end-all case.
Yeah.
But from the unit that I worked at, I mean, you got the dudes who've been there for a long time. Mm-hmm. They have that one case where it's like, hey, this started out with a single image, dropped into like Bing or whatever.
Yeah.
And we had almost no information, and we start working it, and then we come across it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of files. Or, there's one case the detectives did an amazing job on it, where it started out as a cyber tip, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But it was just one victim. They tracked this guy down. Long story short, this guy was talking to kids on some gaming platform, and then would move them over to another platform. And then he would basically get them to start taking their clothes off, and he was recording everything. And he had like hard copies of everything that he was recording. And he would,
like, this is a guy's full-time job. Like, he's spending his entire day doing this.
Like, we're talking, gosh, I want to say 60 victims. It's probably north of that, of all these kids, right? That he was able to get to a point where they're taking off their clothes and exposing themselves, or getting them to bring in a friend or a young family member and abuse them. So, and there was victims from all over the country. My cousin, who was working special victims at the time, actually worked on this case that originated out of Idaho. And my cousin was working down in Southern California. So there's just victims everywhere. That guy got some insane sentencing. Like, he'll never see the light of day again.
Good. He should not get a radio.
No, probably not.
No extra tuna rations for him.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No. Somebody needs to be just butt fucking that dude until Elon Musk calls him for advice on his tunneling company. And even then, in my mind, that's not enough.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But you reap what you sow, right? You reap what you sow. You know that people who commit those crimes don't do well in prison. You went and did it anyways.
Yeah. I'm very happy that they don't do that in prison.
Yeah.
What do you think, if you could lay out the rest of your career, what kind of stuff do you want to do? Do you think you'll stay in the SVU stuff, or Do you look ahead 2.5 year, 5 year, 10 year?
Yeah, I mean, looking ahead, I really like the leadership aspect. I remember being, just a boot cop and looking up at like some of my sergeants and going, I want to do that one day, like lead a team and go out there and be proactive and that kind of thing. So I think in the next, 2 to 5 years, promoting and then, hopefully kind of finding out from there that you promote and it opens up all these different doors. And, I can't say for certain what I want to do.
I didn't realize all the different task force jobs that were available, interagency stuff. I didn't get that until I became friends with some guys locally. I was like, you're doing what? You guys are doing what? You're attached to who? Like, fuck, okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than people would think just sitting in a patrol car.
Oh, yeah.
What do the sheriffs call their vehicles? Is it a patrol car?
Like a radio car. That's what I've always called it.
They're in trucks. Would you just call it a patrol truck? Or
Gosh, I guess.
Or Suburbans.
Or some people call it the shop, sitting in my shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's kind of where
buddy of mine
where
watches a lot of Netflix in his shop.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, if it's 2 a.m,
that's usually what he's doing.
Freezing cold.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody moving around.
Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just trying to make it to the end of your shift.
What would you change if you're king for a day in law enforcement? What would you change about the occupation?
That's a great question. I guess the first thing I would change, and knowing that it is actively changing, is the culture around mental health. That's what I would change right up front. The place I'm at right now does an amazing job, in my opinion. I think they do a great job. And the place that I was at before, the other agency in Idaho, did a phenomenal job. Los Angeles County, I love that agency. The culture does not, like I said, that's changing.
Yeah. That's like a battleship changing, though. It takes a lot of spins of the wheel for the compass to move a degree or two.
Absolutely. And the agency themselves, I mean, there's a ton of like county shrinks, and all they do is handle cops, right? They're hired by the county for the county, and that's it, and their families, I believe. But the problem is the culture just, hey, you're a pussy if you go talk to them. You're a pussy. And so it makes it difficult, man. Like I'm not afraid to admit that I went to a really, really, really bad place. I was 2 years, give or take, in a patrol, and you don't really fit in with like the brand new guys, but you don't really fit in with like the OG cops, and you're just seeing nasty, terrible stuff all the time, and blowing off smoke is, or blowing off steam is drinking too much. And I can't do anything else. All I know is being a cop, but I don't feel like I can sustain this anymore. So
that's a super dangerous lie when people they tell themselves they can't do anything else.
Yeah, it is.
Or the sunken cost fallacy, where I've been doing this for a decade. Oh, man. I can't start over. You have no idea where your life could be. If I've had to reinvent myself multiple times because I'm an idiot and don't think about my future very much.
Yeah. And
I put myself in these places where I'm like, well, guess I better figure this shit out real fast. And then you look back a few years later and you realize none of these opportunities that I have now would have even been possible had I stayed the path I was on.
Right. Right.
And that's not always the case. I'm not trying to paint a rainbow picture for people of, fuck it, let's just reinvent. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But if you need to, just don't lie to yourself and say you can't do anything else.
Yeah, man. And it's super tragic. I mean, we've seen it happen. I just had a partner that I worked with down there took his own life, and it sounds like it was that same. Like I've got 15 years on. I can't leave and go somewhere else, but
you can.
We're so short staffed, and I'm working. I'm maxed out on overtime, mandatory. Can't sustain it. And I mean, 2023, it was a 24-hour period, and 4 LA County, there 2 deputies and 2 civilian employees killed themselves in a 24-hour period.
I mean, if that doesn't set off alarm bells institutionally, I don't know what would.
All over the news, but
yeah,
as it should be. But you go, okay, there's 4 in 24 hours, and that's terrifying. But then you look at,
and that's in one county.
And that's in one county. Yeah, I think LA County that year, I want to say, had like 13 or more suicides. And at what point do you go, man, we've got like a serious issue? The county did their job. They've got all these shrinks on site. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So like, dude, if you're struggling, like, bro, go get help. It takes a strong man to actually go get the help that they need. Because if you're just
asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness.
Absolutely. And I wish I went and did that way sooner. I would have saved myself a lot of heartache, man. A lot of heartache. It would have saved my family a lot of heartache. Like I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to suck it up. And, that only works for so long before it starts spilling over. And yeah, it's never, ever, ever good.
I agree.
Yeah, man.
Well, shit, man, we've been at it a few hours. Your wife is probably waiting for you at the coffee shop. What do you want to close it out with?
Nothing's ever going to be 100% safe. If you're a parent, like, don't think that the boogeyman's around every single corner, right? And you got to allow your kids some freedom, but
don't think he doesn't exist either.
But don't think he doesn't exist, right? Like, if your kid's got a cell phone, and none of this is aimed at trying to tell you how to parent your kids. None of it. But if your kid has a cell phone, maybe it's a good idea to just, hey, we're going to charge that, and it's going to be up in my room. Or, you leave a kid in the middle of the night with their cell phone, they're probably going to do something that they're going to regret later. There's different options out there for cell phones. I'm not sponsored by any of them, but like Bark, Pinwheel, anything like that.
Did they design phones for that? Are there any good state or federal resources or websites you would point parents at for educational?
Yeah, absolutely. So missingkids.org is NECMEC.
Okay.
Dude, they've got stuff for kids. They've got stuff for parents. They'll come out. They'll do training. If you own a restaurant, you own a coffee shop, you own a clothing store, whatever it is, they do a program called Code Atom, and it's basically just a protocol for, like, if a kid goes missing in your store or around your store, like, hey, everybody's trained up on what to do. We're going to call the cops immediately. Give me a description of the kid. Get me a photo. We're going to have all that lined out so that we can get this kid, A, found faster, or B, let's put him in the system as fast as we can. I mean, most missing kid situations, the parents go, and which is completely understandable. They go and they look for a couple hours and go, oh, God, he's like really gone.
Yeah.
And then call. And
that's enough to be over state lines.
Correct. God forbid something actually happened. Or even like, you find kids in lakes and canals and that kind of thing. And it's terrible. Last point is, if you're a parent, God forbid something happens to your kid, what do? You
kill everybody.
Yeah. Well, it comes with some legal issues, but we could try and work around it, I guess.
Just shooting from the hip here.
Yeah, man. It's your natural instinct as a parent is to go, oh my God, tell me everything. Right. And it's going to be really hard to do this, but call the cops, get a very basic story, and then let the investigators investigate. Because if we ask too many questions up front and we don't get a great interview in, or this kid comes across looking like they were coached, even though they weren't, that's going to be really hard on the court side. And we don't want people who abuse kids to get away with any of this stuff, because small ticky-tack nonsense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool, man. I'm not going to bother. I mean, I know you're still active, so you probably don't want to put out your social handle or a way for people to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I'm not affiliated. Yeah, I'll throw it out there. On Instagram, codeword.northstar. It's not affiliated with any agency. Anybody who goes and checks it out, I'm terrible with social media. So it's gonna.
I'll link you up with my dad. He could be your manager.
Oh, dude, perfect.
That's my dad's retirement job.
Yeah,
social media account manager.
Yes,
really good idea.
I will legitimately pitch that to him today. And I bet I can get him to say yes. And I bet I could find him a client or two.
Dude, perfect.
Yeah, he'll start with Debbie. Which is his wife.
Oh, perfect.
Cool, man. Well, thank you for coming out.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we did a good job of not educating predators and hopefully giving parents some good ideas.
That's the name of the game, man. I'm trying to put some sort of training together. The gym that I roll at in Idaho.
Jiu-jitsu player.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me put it this way. I suck.
Yeah, welcome to the fucking club. Michael and I suck too. Michael sucks more than me, but
more than most people, actually.
Bro,
guess what? You're never going to master it, and there's always somebody out there that has your number.
Oh, 100%. I found that out real quick.
Yeah, it's a fucking rough intro. It's a rough intro.
It is, man. I started at 30. I'm like, I really wish I started this earlier.
I started at 41.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well,
Dude, good for you. Good for you, though.
it was from my buddy who was a cop who wouldn't shut the fuck up about jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
He got his blue belt shortly after I started. He is still a blue belt.
Yeah.
That's how often he comes to class.
It'd be like that sometimes. Hey, listen, shift work sucks, all right?
When was the last time, I'm not going to use any names, so like a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Mike, when was the last time you saw Nelson in class? Was it last year? Definitely last year. Well, he blew his knee out.
Yeah, that doesn't help. But
But before that, I hadn't
remember. It
seen
was
him
like
in
a
there
year.
for 8 months.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I was at his blue belt Ironman as a one stripe white belt. The motherfucker's still a blue belt.
It'd be like that sometimes, man, but
You know what he says? He's like, I know enough. I can handle most people.
yeah.
I want to entice him. I need to steal a car and figure out, get him to pull me over. There's a lot of ways this could go south and I could get shot and killed.
Oh, man.
But I want to fucking tackle him and just beat the shit out of him.
Dude, if you yell tickle fight and then he shoots you, you got a great case on your hands.
I mean, I don't know. He's not a good shot either. Probably miss.
I don't know how to help you. Then. I don't know how to help you. But yeah, man, trying to put out trainings and just get in front of as many parents as possible.
I think that's the way.
Yeah, that's the only way we get in front of this.
Yeah.
Because on the lawn, we're reacting to a lot of stuff. It's something bad's already happened, so the prevention is going to be up to parents.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Let's get you back to your wife.
Cool. Thanks, brother.
Of course.